They look up to some twit instead of looking up to Thomas Jefferson or looking up to Nikola Tesla or looking up to Magellan. I mean, kids, Magellan's a lot cooler than Justin Bieber. He circumnavigated with one ship the entire planet. He was killed by wild natives before they got back to Portugal. And when they got back, there was only like 11 people alive of the 200-and-something crew, and the entire ship was rotting down to the waterline. That's destiny. That's will. That's striving. That's being a trailblazer, an explorer, going into space, mathematics, quantum mechanics, the secrets of the universe. It's all there. Life is fiery with its beauty, its incredible detail. Tuning into it. They want to shatter your mind talking about Justin Bieber.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
What is going on, Hive? I think I got the audio completely right the first time. That might be a first in itself. But man, I am excited for the show tonight. As you guys know, I got Devil's Advocate. It's been a couple of weeks since him and I have gotten to chat, so I'm excited to catch up with him. He's got a video or two that I saw he posted like yesterday. It's got like 30-something thousand views about a book that he's reading and a connection that he made with the Idaho forts. Super interesting. I'll leave it at that. But anyways, I hope everybody is doing great today and that Monday wasn't too much of a Monday. Let's see who we got in here. Chantelli Lace, always my first and favorite username that I see. We got Mercedes. Ren says the bird is the word. Chantelli Lace is in the house. Like I was saying, she has the best username of all time. What's up, PG? The Clueless too. I think I was just texting you. Oh man, what's going on, Denise? What's up, Festive? Carrie, how are you doing? Miss Q, I'd like to think so. Yes, Devil's Advocate's great. Phoenix Talks. What's Gucci, my Louie? Monique. Thank you, Nicole. Renee. So that live that I did last night on TikTok, it's not downloadable because of the whatever warnings, restrictions, all that stuff. So that is one of the problems with the TikTok lives. We've done a good job avoiding it, but whether it be glitching out sometimes, like what happened with Sammy T Mafia, or like this, it just restricts it. It says the replay is not downloadable, and there's nothing I can do about it. So that sucks whenever that happens. Because obviously I love the TikTok Hive. The number on this jersey, we got number 13. If you guys know, if I'm not wearing like an NBA jersey or like kind of a funny one, like I got a Jackie Moon Tropic Thunder one. Or is it Tropic Thunder? No. Is it? Does that sound right? What's the one where Will Ferrell buys a basketball team? Or is Tropic Thunder the war movie? Does anybody know? Anyways, one of my best friends gave me a bunch of like game worn IU jerseys. So shout out to him for that. That's awesome. It's a war movie. Okay. Well, what's the basketball one? You guys know what I'm talking about. It's definitely not Tropic Thunder then. Both hilarious movies though. All right. So Devil's Advocate has the link to StreamYard. He said he was without cell service. He's about to get home. I told him not to rush because I got a ton of stuff to dive into as far as Hive Mind finds. I had 2 hours today of like uninterrupted computer time, which if you guys work on a computer, most of the time you just get like busy work and then you end up really not moving the needle at anything. I actually had 2 hours today to like completely move the needle, go through a lot of stuff in the inbox. I went back even a couple of weeks. So that is what I have for the Hive Mind finds today. And like I said, it's incredible how much stuff is flowing in. If you guys do have anything that you want me to show on screen for the Hive Mind finds or just something interesting, it doesn't even have to be about the Idaho 4. It can be about any true crime case, any conspiracy, any contrarian viewpoint. birdiebombshell00@gmail.com. I also wanted to point out birdiebombshell.com. We got a lot of folks from the UK getting some merch, which is great. So we can ship internationally, which is awesome. And I got the tinfoil hats officially listed. And then I got a travel mug and a coffee mug that say Conspiracy Realist. That was one of the ideas, and I really like that. Still working on the stickers and the bumper stickers. Would you guys, how many people would prefer a sticker versus a bumper magnet? Can you guys let me know real quick in the chat? And I see Devil's Advocate is backstage, so he'll be getting up here real soon. I just want to see what you guys all say to that. Because the magnets, I've ordered like magnets for a bumper before, and they don't stick everywhere in the car. So, okay, hopefully, maybe these are different kinds of magnets, but I'll look into that. Maybe I'll just do both. Honestly, it won't be hard to do both. But these are up. These are all available. Mrs. Birdie is the MVP for getting that website up and running. And we really do the cheapest prices possible with the taxes and shipping. I think I told you guys on the first 2 or 3 days of merch orders, Mrs. Birdie and I ended up partially paying for you guys' orders, which we are happy to do so because we had the prices set too low. So anyways, just know now this is all on behalf of the Hive and for the Hive. And this stream and chat is as much yours as it is mine and Phoenix's and Devil's Advocate and Sammy T Mafia's and all the other wonderful guests that I have on. And with that being said, I see Devil's Advocate backstage. Like I was saying, it looks like he's getting his audio set up, so I'm going to let him up here in a second. But Budford says, what will she bring you to eat tonight? Well, we did just have tacos, so I don't know if I'll be needing a snack, but most of the time it's Nerds Gummies, which is awesome. So, Devil's Advocate, are you ready, brother? Can you? All right, he's ready. Here we go. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear my sound? I don't know if the mic's working. So
it's working. We got you loud and clear.
Sweet. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk with you, man. I was clicking around on your YouTube channel and I saw you had a video that's kind of popping off.
Right. Yeah, I love what you've done with the place. Like this StreamYard thing is pretty cool. I gotta get this hooked up myself.
Oh, it's I don't know if you were backstage when I was talking about, but I had another TikTok live from last night, 2 hours, great, I guess, viewpoints and great conversation with Phoenix.
Yeah.
Can't download it because of the restrictions. So it's the second or third time it's happened. I had another one with Sammy T Mafia like 2 weeks ago. It just glitches out, and it's really inconvenient whenever that happens. So the StreamYard, while it's not the OG TikTok, as I call the chat, the Hive Mind, the YouTube Hive Mind, we've got a lot of people starting to convert over to YouTube. So I'm gonna still slowly try to do that. But how many? Oh,
was your restriction only on TikTok, or was it a StreamYard issue?
No. I don't do StreamYard through to TikTok. If I go on TikTok, I use a TikTok live studio.
Yeah.
It happens. I mean,
yeah.
But
I got a restriction on TikTok the other night before I even got started. Like everybody was like, "What did you say?" I'm like, "I have no idea what I said. So yeah." Anyways, it's all good.
I think it's mine. With my intro, I have Alex Jones in it.
Oh,
just ranting. That's honestly, that's the only thing I can think about. Which,
by the way, I have to say, dude, your intro, I saw that one and it gave me the chills. The music was spot on. Yeah. That was smoking. I got to hire you for some PR stuff, man.
I'm more than happy to help you out, dude. I got a lot of experience doing that type of stuff. Like I said, with the liquor company that I own. So pretty much I was doing everything for that, which was marketing, HR, PR.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, so thank you. I appreciate that, man. All right. So what I tend to do and how I start each stream, Devil's Advocate, is I have what I call the Hive Mind Finds, where people can email me anything that they want. Most of the time, I'll try to put stuff on that pertains to one of the more recent streams about the Idaho 4 case or something that we talked about. But you are obviously more than welcome to share your thoughts on what I show you. So this one is just random. This has been in my inbox for a couple of weeks. So shout out to Bubbly for this photo. But to give everybody a refresher, this tattoo was on the arm of a gentleman that called into my live stream. He's known as Alpha. If you guys have been following me with the Idaho 4 case, myself and Phoenix, we had a gentleman who popped into my live stream. His name was Alpha Kenny Kid. So it's just like a disgusting username if you say it really fast. We didn't pick up on that right away. Right. So, I mean, yeah. So, but his mother apparently owned or owns the property management company for the King Road house. And he gave Maddie and Kaylee a tour of the house. Did I ever tell you about that or no?
No, but it sounds familiar. It sounded familiar, but I don't think I saw you talk about it. But yes.
Yeah. So he popped up, and I equate the conversation, like Phoenix and I unintentionally ended up doing like good cop, bad cop with him. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was the good cop. Phoenix was kind of holding him to the fire a little bit, but it kind of reminded me of a conversation. Like if I could use the analogy of like, I got hustled in pool, or like he was trying to hustle us in pool, kind of acts like he doesn't know anything. And then he just starts saying like a bunch of wild details about crawl spaces under the house and how he's been under the house and that he knows all the cops and he's got this criminal record. And why would Koberger take that route? I mean, it wouldn't have been hard for him to dig a hole and bury the Schmurder weapon. Like it was just a lot of like, whoa. Yeah. Well, the reason why I put this photo on is Bubbly. It's obviously a Bob's Burgers tattoo. This is a Bob's Burgers shirt that one of the surviving roommates is wearing. Not that it's linked. I'm not making that allegation. I just think it's odd that that was the case. And I've drawn on this tattoo. I feel like it's an ambigram. If you guys can see my cursor, I swear this says karma. I swear, dude, I can pick out the letters karma. When you stand back, it looks like there's a word written in those characters.
It looks like it's 5 characters mooning me is what it looks like. I see a bunch of asses looking at me.
I mean, I can see it does. I guess
like that last one is an ass. Like somebody's pulling their pants down and mooning me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No, I can see it. So, you know, that's one again for if you've been following the streams, you guys will remember Alpha, and that was pretty It was pretty insane. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting that then I don't know if they're related. I doubt that it's related. It's probably just a coincidence. But this is one now for the audio off of the Linda Lane dumpster footage. This is at 1:56 a.m. It happens right away. If you guys have headphones, I would highly encourage you guys put them in for this. It does sound like you hear somebody say, "You're going to die. Do you think I'm playing?" You hear some sort of crashing thud noise, and then it sounds like you hear like a male voice shriek, maybe cry. I don't know, but it happens right away. And for whatever reason, I know we've watched this footage a ton of times. You tell me if you hear it pretty clearly, Devil's Advocate. I'll play it right now. You know what I'm going to do? I got to do this, I think. Let me go to YouTube and actually open it up for you guys. All right, listen right away. Right there. Right there.
So it looks like I'm not the only one who didn't hear it on our end, because somebody in the chat said no sound. I didn't get it, so I didn't hear it.
Well, that's on me then. Let me see if I can do this quick. Let me just share it again. Sometimes honestly, it's a very quiet video, but let me just see if I can find a better one. Linda Lane, 1:56 a.m. Let me just see if I can, because well, sorry, I thought that one was going to be fine. I think this is the same. Let's see if it's any louder. No, it's not. It's 2 a.m. If I can't find this quickly.
Oh man, this is like a bad date. You got me all worked up for nothing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, well, I guess I had my headphones turned up so loud that I didn't think about how I mean, I'll just do this quick. If I can't find it, chat, I'll move on. But all right, let's see if this one works. So hang on. Where is the timestamp? That's 3:26. Of course, this one starts at 1:59. All right. Well, if you guys are interested in hearing that one, I would go look up the 1:56 timestamp on the Linda Lane footage. It does sound like you hear, "You're gonna die. Do you think I'm playing?" And then it sounds like a thud and kind of a male cry. So if you guys couldn't hear that one, it is quiet. It's not that it's not going through. It's just, it's very quiet.
And what was the timestamp that would have been at?
That's 1:56 a.m. on the dumpster cam.
Man, that's really early.
Yeah, very early. So I mean, maybe should I keep trying? Sometimes I feel like I rush.
Yeah, I mean, I got time. If you know, your audience better than me. If they're okay with fumbling around it, go ahead and fumble around, right? I'm okay.
Chat, what do you think? Should we try to find it? Because it is interesting. Someone said try. Okay, let's. All right, here we go. Okay, nice. Can you hear that coming through?
Yeah.
Okay. It's right away. It happens right away. Right there. You hear it?
Yeah, I hear what you're hearing.
I think I'm playing. Then you hear that.
I heard that.
So you definitely hear, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you hear die very clearly. So, you know, I'll play it one more time. It's like, you're gonna die. Do you think I'm playing? Then it's like a 5-second pause. Then you hear like a male shrieking. So, right there. I mean,
Yeah,
dude,
that sounds horrific. But
that's clear as day. That is clear as day. That is a shriek of fear, panic, pain, all the above. So, I just thought that was an interesting little soundbite. So I'm glad that you guys bared with me through that, because I think the first video that I had was just quiet. That one you can obviously hear it. Yeah. So now this next one. This is a really good resource that I just wanted to share with everybody. It's called the Undercroft. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this site. Have you, Devil's Advocate?
no, I haven't.
Okay. So let me. So check this out. Whoever did this, great job. It lays out everything from details, timeline of events, all the evidence, the use of the IgG. It's a huge document, and you can search it with Control F. So rather than going through all of the court doc files, you guys can use this. And I mean, look, it's got all of it. It's got Reddit, Snapchat, Spotify, Tinder, the use of IgG, who was involved, all the exhibits. So I know there's a lot of people that dig on this case. It is undercroftco.com. Here is the spelling of it if you guys want to screenshot it. It's pretty remarkable how, and it looks like they got different cases on there. So I'll have to buy this guy a beer. I like those things where it's like, buy me a coffee or buy me a beer. You know, it's kind of a creative way. But yeah, so it's got a lot. It's got the summary, and then it's obviously got all the links that you can click on it for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, I know where I'm spending this in the next 24 hours.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because it's nice to be able to do the Control F. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right, man. So now these are just random ass things that I'm like, wow, these are pretty crazy for things that people have sent me. So the first one, I might have known this. We might have talked about it, but I don't know for sure. So I figured I'd put it back up here. And it's that this Range Rover still had dealer plates on it. Did you know that?
No,
I didn't know that either. So I thought that was really, really weird. So
was that supposed to be Kaylee's car?
That's what I was wondering, because it looks like a Range Rover.
Yeah, well, Kaylee's car was supposed to be like brand new, but I mean not brand new, but I mean like she just got it, but so maybe dealer's plates. But yeah, I don't remember what the make and model of Kaylee's new car was.
Well, I know she had just gotten it, but I'm like, damn, she must have literally just drove that off the lot.
Yeah,
to not even have temporary plates. I mean, I don't know if they tape it in the back window. I've seen that before, but I feel like usually if you get it from a dealer, they'll put like a paper temp plate on the plate part.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Another thing was like a 4chan screenshot, and it says they will protect Kopaka to no end. They will kill me or discharge me for uttering these words. Brian Koberger was a criminal informant giving information regarding the distribution of cocaine and MDMA at the 1122 King Road address. The cops don't want anyone knowing that they effed up and got the wrong dude. Cope was effing nuts, and he was suicidal. We know he and Koberger became pretty tight. I don't know if Koberger had the balls to unalive 4 people, but Cope, without a doubt, did not give one F. Keep digging if you want, but it will get hairy. This will be the only correspondence I make. Any others claiming to be me are fakes. My passphrase is rivalry week, but I'll never have to use it. Good luck, gents. There's just some stuff like that you read it and you're like, I've said that those 4chan posts and the Reddit posts, they wouldn't have gotten scrubbed if there wasn't truth to some of them.
Right. And I'm super sketched about Kopaka because every time I bring him up, someone sticks their foot in my butt and tells me how evil of a human being I am for mentioning the guy's name. But I have been working on the connection between Koberger and Kopaka for a long time, and I've got a lot of connection points, but I just can't seem to get the smoking gun, if you will, probably a bad phrase in this in true crime aspects, but you know what I'm saying? Like I've got them close, and it wouldn't be unimaginable for me to have a scenario in which Koberger was working with the feds on something that's not unimaginable. I mean, he was a super bright PhD candidate, and all kinds of there could be all kinds of truth to that. And Kopaka being unstable is well documented. They had multiple run-ins with Kopaka. So, but I hate it. I hate mentioning him because every time I mention him, I get so much hatred and vitriol from like, how dare you mention Kopaka? He's got a Purple Heart and leave that guy alone. And I get it. You know, if you're wrong, you don't want to do that.
Yeah,
but, man,
I agree. I think one of the things, and I'm not saying that it's always in your chat or versus this chat, but I think that for the majority of the people that are tuning in here, they can, like, we've had to have those uncomfortable name drops, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're all, understanding this is a discussion. We don't know. We only know what we think we know. But I am curious. You said that you found a couple connection points. Can you rattle any off the top of your head? Well, sure.
I mean, first of all, my wife and I did a lot of digging on public records, and we found out that, it started small. We found out that Kopaka's mom had owned a house in Pennsylvania, and so did the Kobergers own a house in Pennsylvania. Then it turned out that Kopaka was probably staying around with his mother at the time that they were there. So now you're getting closer. And then we found out that his mother and his family, the Kopakas, own houses around Idaho area. Down in Lewiston, they owned a house. They own a house east of Moscow. And so then I started doing more research, and I verified that Kopaka had a cell phone that he bought in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And all the victims come from, well, not all the victims, but 3 of the 4 victims come from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And that Kopaka had a phone that he bought in Idaho, and all of that seems circumstantial. And then along came like a, true crime podcaster, Crime Circus, and he says, hey, here, by the way, is Kopaka's address in Pennsylvania. And he says, and it's a block, it's like 7 miles away from where Koberger was going to school. And I thought, holy shit. The problem is, I don't know where he got the address of Kopaka's address. He said, this is where Kopaka. So I was like, if he can put Kopaka and Koberger in the same city within miles of each other, and then, as I say, you put these same 2 guys in Pullman, Washington, across the country at the same time within 2 miles of each other, there's no way in hell you're going to convince me that's a random coincidence. If those 2 guys are in the same city, over in Pennsylvania, and now in Podunk, Pullman, Washington. Sorry to say it's Podunk, but I think I got some rights to say it. I used to go to school there. The point being is that is phenomenally ridiculous. And then you start tying in all the rumors and about how there was confusion over the 2 BKs. They're both initials of BK, and there was confusion. And did they know each other? Well, if they came both from Pennsylvania and they both come out to Pullman, Washington, then there's those connection points that go. So again, it's all been loose circumstantial stuff that leads. And again, the Kopaka and his friends were all into horror films, and Koberger's sister starred in a horror film. And so did they all get connected with Koberger because they were all into the horror film thing, and his sister was in a horror film? Like, it's again a bunch of circumstantial shit that I can't prove, which is why I'm super nervous talking about it, because I'm like, look, I'm just asking questions, but how much okay, so I'm sorry for the side rant, but if
No.
you're gonna convict
Please.
Kohberger on a bunch of circumstantial stuff, that because he might have done this and he might have done this, and how many circumstantial things can you put together and not know it's the guy? Well, it's the same thing with the Kohberger Kopacka connection. There's so many circumstantial things. If you're willing to dismiss all that as just pure circumstantial, then why are you hanging Kohberger on a bunch of circumstantial evidence? If you follow the logic,
I agree, and that even goes back to like you talk about another name where people will talk about him, but they don't. It's always one of those, oh, well, you know, it's a victim's father. But like Steve G, where he's like saying how this is the most airtight case they have. I find it very hard to believe that unless there is the smoking gun of evidence against Brian Kohberger, I don't see any professional saying that this is the most airtight case they have. I went on a rant the other night. I said, an airtight case is they're caught on camera, they find the murder weapon, they catch him in the act. There's all this other evidence. Not his phone was maybe within 100 meters. They haven't found the murder weapon and there's no motive and there's no connection to the victims. And he just moved here. He didn't know anybody, right? Like, yeah. How is that the most airtight case? So, you know, I digress. I think we're on the same page with that. I think most people are.
I think, you know, you heard about, I did a video just recently about like 22 theories that and ranked in order and what I think the probability is. And like 7 on my list was the Kopacka thing. And one of the earliest videos I ever did on this case was, what if Kohberger was just the getaway driver? And what if he, you know, and this could go several different ways. What if Kohberger literally had somebody say, hey, can you drive into this house? Somebody owes me some money. I'm going to go in and get my money. Had no idea murder was going to happen. And all of a sudden he's screeching out there like, holy shit, what just happened? Shit hit them. Maybe he's not involved. Or maybe, you know, he knew what was going on and he dropped somebody off or dropped a group of people off and circled the block and came back. That's, of course, if we take for granted that it is Kohberger's car that's seen every single time. We're not even sure that's his car every single time. But that was one of my first theories was, what if he didn't go into the house and Kohberger knows something about what happened, but he didn't actually go. Maybe he dropped off a group of people and maybe he circled back and forth waiting for them to get done and come back out to the car. Maybe there was somebody that was in there a little bit longer than expected. Whatever. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios you can go with it, but there's a possibility that he's still peripherally involved, but maybe didn't know exactly what was going to happen that night.
Yeah, and I think too, like I'll probably get a little bit of flack for saying this, but like a lot of people have had the theory of like he was the cleaner, he was the cleanup guy, he was the cleaner. I think about that and I'm like, okay, if you take out this whole criminology, like criminology doesn't mean that he would know how to clean a crime scene, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't know it, especially if you're not there, you don't see the scene or you don't see it happening. You're not going to know where DNA ends up. You're not going to be able to like truly clean that. And you think in 8 hours, 4 people, no DNA really. Well, there was, but you guys know what I'm saying in the gist of it, right? I would be curious if a professional like cleanup company that gets hired for that, how long it would take them for 4 unalivings to clean that up.
Right,
or just to think that there's that much blood and that much brutality to, I'm just going to clean up DNA. That to me seems like a stretch.
Well, here's another theory that I hardly ever get a chance to say. So since we're just bullshitting, this is one of the things I was thinking too. So let's say, for example, Kohberger, let's go with the theory that Kohberger doesn't make friends super easy and maybe he's a little socially awkward, but he makes some friends, right? And let's say in his little group of friends, some of them have murderous intent and are thinking about committing a murder. But now they know this guy who's a PhD candidate in criminology, and they ask a hypothetical question. Hey, if you were going to commit a murder, how would you get away with it? How would you clean up the crime scene? What would you do? And maybe he's just off the cuff. Well, if I were me, I would do this, 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 and this. And you're like, hey, thanks for the tips. And they take a piece of information like a knife sheath and get some DNA. Hey, touch this, and then leave it at the crime scene. So could it have been something? I don't know. That starts at some point. It starts to get ridiculous with all the different theories that you could come up with. But what if it would literally somebody just tapped his brain and said, hey, you're a criminology student. If you were going to get away with this, what would you do? What kind of things would you do to keep your DNA from getting at the crime scene and get away cleanly? And maybe he just told somebody how he would do it if it was him. And then later, next thing you know, he's like, holy shit, I'm being fingered for this thing.
Yeah. Well, you even got Steve G saying, I could think of a bunch of different ways that he could have done this better, which is like, we're talking about your daughter's murder here, my guy. Like, that's just a weird thing, dude. Like,
yeah, Steve's hard to read sometimes, you know. He's
talking about too that they knew that Jack was in his bed when he moved around because of all the surveillance, and then he I was breaking down an interview where he was like, yeah, there was surveillance. And what did all this YouTube crazy stuff? Did he climb up in the attic? And then did he avoid all the surveillance that was going on that night? It's like, wait, what?
Dude,
Pause.
Dude,
Like,
I have to take this moment. So I had somebody, I don't even want to name them by name because I don't remember who busted my nuts. They said, because one of my top theory on my top 22 theories was ex-boyfriend is most likely. If I were going to do the most likely scenario, that's a crime of passion against Kaylee and it's personal, I would be looking at Jack DeCoeur. And someone said, that's ridiculous. Jack DeCoeur was ruled out. He has an alibi. His phone was at the house. And I thought, what you just said was the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because you're trying to tell me a criminology student's not smart enough to leave his freaking phone behind, and that somehow Jack DeCour's airtight alibi is his phone was at the house. Like he couldn't have left it at the house and then gone and committed murder. And if that's all you needed for an alibi for him, like, are we not thinking things through? Like, how was that an airtight alibi? He left his phone at the crime scene, but yet the criminology student isn't smart enough to leave his fucking phone behind at at home and going to commit a crime.
I agree, dude. I agree. And we actually, when I had Sammy T Mafia on, we did like a segment on the peripheral players, and it was pretty much people who inserted themselves into the case, into the media initially, like Joe and Anon and a couple other people. And it's like, so that you're being scrutinized for being caught on film near the future victims prior to them going missing. You're one of the last people to be around them. You're acting suspicious that the entire world and internet is questioning you. And you don't get a lawyer to just release a statement. Instead, you do a 6-part TikTok video series that only makes it look weirder. Like what are we doing here? So anyways, that's kind of the little tangent on the 4chan post and the Reddit post. I do think there's some truth to that.
And this has been scrubbed, you said, this particular post?
I was on the archives today.
Okay.
The link that this was sent to me was from an archive or way back link. Oops, let me get out of this. I want to zoom in on a couple of these now here. So this is interesting. Again, just a good pickup. This was the air traffic. It's a replay of Brian Koberger's parents' house the night before he was arrested. An unmarked plane circled it for 2 hours. I think some people know that, but it's a good reminder of like, they were pulling out all of the tools for this.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, what are you trying to pick up on doing this? I mean, unless it's again a coincidence, I think it's a snowball's chance in hell.
Well, I mean, according to Howard Bloom's book, which I've been reading, the FBI was following him in a Cessna the whole way from Pullman to Pennsylvania. So I wouldn't be surprised that could be the FBI's plane, although there's probably better vehicles than a plane for circling the house, maybe a helicopter. But anyways, it's interesting.
Yeah. So then here's another. This one I did not know. Okay, so I'm going to read this. This font is super small, but do you guys remember this car that crashed in was it Eugene, Oregon?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? 8 hours away? Ish?
Yeah, I don't remember the distance on it. Yeah,
like it's drivable. If you drove through the night, it's drivable. It's about the next day. Okay, so check this out. Eugene, Oregon. 2 people are receiving medical treatment after a 3-person fight that left one with stab wounds and another with serious but non-life-threatening injuries on Monday, according to the Eugene PD. According to the EPD, at about 3:33 p.m. on November 14th, a man and his girlfriend were walking on 16th Ave near High Street when 2 other men who police say were known to the couple began following them. Police said the following men got into a fight with the male half of the couple. And during the fight, one of them was stabbed more than once. Police said the male half of the couple, which is just a weird way to say that, but so police said the male half of the couple sustained serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Eugene police say they set up an investigation near the scene of the altercation, and members of the public were asked to avoid the area while the investigation was underway. Police say the man who was stabbed was taken to a nearby hospital via private vehicle, then flown to another hospital for more advanced care. The male half of the couple was also taken to a nearby hospital to be treated for his injuries. Police say there's no threat to the public, but an investigation is ongoing. So here's what's interesting. The car location where it crashed is here. This gets cut off, but I'd be curious to see what it says. This Oh no. So maybe this is where the car was. This is a zoomed out view. That's what this is. Zoomed out view. So here is where I believe the crash was, and here's where the fight was. So this is only a few blocks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that all a coincidence that somebody's getting stabbed after a hit? This car just goes missing, and it looks like the car that's on the scene at King Road, and potentially even the owner, the old owner of that property's car. If you've gone down that rabbit hole, have you heard that?
Yeah. No, I haven't. But a big, again, the heart. I mean, I'm not saying that this isn't good stuff. But that's the thing. The white Hyundai Elantra. There's a million of them. Like that's a super common car. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's all things that when you start tying in an owner of the house or a renter of the house, or you start getting connections of people who are near the thing, that makes it much, much more interesting, of course.
Well, yeah, for sure. And the Hive Mind finds are more so just like things that I haven't seen. Maybe they're less known. They're not necessarily meant to like tell a huge story, but it's good conversation. I always think it's a really good way to start the stream, kind of get the I guess the thought juices flowing. Right? Yeah. So it's interesting, Devil's Advocates, that you had brought up the ex.
Yeah.
And how they ruled him out so quickly. You said he was number what on your list? 7? Or was that something else? Oh, he was number 1.
He's number 1 on my list. He's still, if I were a betting man, I would say that person has the most motive to do what has been done. Now, there's caveats to it, but yeah, he was number 1 on my list as the most likely at the end of the day is going to be involved in this and somehow.
I would be curious. So have you noticed the trend? Speaking of those peripheral players, I would consider him like a fringe peripheral player. Like he's a player, you know what I'm saying? Like in the scope of this case, but like he wasn't really, I mean, wasn't he seen at the corner club and that's about it? Maybe.
Who, Jack DeCoeur?
Or was that Jack Showalter still?
Jack Showalter followed the girls from the corner club. In fact, so let me break that down just a hair, if you're interesting. So this is one of the things that people kick me in the nuts for is I'm reading Howard Bloom's book and doing a chapter by chapter analysis, and people will be, oh my God, I can't believe you're taking Howard Bloom as fact. No, I never said I was taking Howard Bloom as fact, but you and I both are researching everything that mainstream media is saying about this case and comparing it versus what we see out there and doing an analysis. I'm doing the same thing with Howard Bloom's book, but he broke down a very, very interesting scenario about what happened that night at the corner club. And it was phenomenal what he wrote, if he's correct. So bear with me.
Yeah, please.
Kaylee Gonzalez was staying with her family and had been basically away from the 1122 King Road resident for a couple 2 or 3 weeks. She showed up that night to show off the new car that she just got and to hook up with Maddie on a big football weekend. And basically, hey, look at this new car I just got. Let's hang out and have a good time. After they started going out partying, it was Kaylee who wanted to go to the corner club. And Howard Bloom says, why the corner club? There was tons of bars they could have gone to. Why the corner club? Well, because it was the club that Jack DeCoeur hangs out with, her ex-boyfriend. At the club, she was very vocal, according to Howard Bloom, letting everyone know that it was done between her and Jack. And she was publicly humiliating him. He was at the bar. His best friend was the bartender. And Maddie spent the night talking to the bartender. Later on camera, you see Maddie and Kaylee talking, and Kaylee says to Maddie, what did you tell him? She goes, I told him everything. And they're being followed by Jack Showalter. So I think as you read the narrative, what happened that night is Kaylee went to humiliate Jack DeCoeur. She was letting everyone know, very vocal, letting everyone know that relationship was over, and she was humiliating them. People witnessed them having a conversation at the corner club, and it was a very terse conversation, according to Howard Bloom. And again, take everything Howard Bloom says with a grain of salt. But he laid out that, yes, that was a big, huge stink that happened that night, and Kaylee seemed to go there to make a point, to make a statement. And now you add, they get back, Showalter is following the girls to the grub truck. Supposedly you hear Maddie at some point turn to Showalter and say, fuck off, because he said something to them. Maybe he said, they're going to get you for this. What some people say, that's what Showalter said. They're going to get you for this. And she's like, fuck off. They get in a car, and within hours they're dead. And they're texting and calling Jack DeCoeur frantically at 2 something in the morning. I think They overstepped, possibly. They pissed him off. He was furious. They were trying to calm the waters and calm him down because they got a threat. They were told, hey, you just fucked up. You came and just humiliated him. You guys are done. And they're texting him like, hey, hey, sorry, whatever. They're trying to get a hold of him. And he's radio silence. There's nothing. There's no response from Jack DeCoeur. Now we know he has an airtight alibi and everybody's slaughtered in the house. I think those things are not just random coincidences.
Wow. When you do say it like that. Now, also, what if there was, I haven't read that book. Was there any mention of flushing their drugs or money people owed or anything? Or do you think it was solely just like a lover's?
We're not through the book. I'm only like about halfway through the book. So the next section of the book is all about forensic stuff. So I don't think they're even going to cover it. It's now. So the part that we've read is up to the murders. And to be fair, Howard Bloom is very, very clear. He believes Kohberger is the killer. Like his chapter on the Corner Club, I was surprised he even wrote it because he's already told us he thinks Kohberger is the killer. In fact, on his chapter of how the murders was done, he tells us exactly what Kohberger is thinking in his mind and what he's thinking as he walks through the whole crime scene. And he's thinking this. And he was like Howard Bloom literally tells you, Kohberger's circling the house because he's trying to work up the nerve. He needs to kill. He's compelled to kill. He must kill, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to be that guy. So he leaves the scene and then he comes back to the scene and he leaves the scene because he's fighting within himself. And he finally parks the car and works up the nerve. I have to do it. I'm compelled to kill. And then he tells you how he's feeling as he walks through the house. I'm like, Jesus, dude, you probably have never had one single conversation with Kohberger, but you're going to tell us what's in his mind as you're painting him as the killer. So despite the fact that he's got him as a killer, surprisingly enough, he paints this whole chapter about this fight and about how Jack DeCoeur was humiliated. And then basically says, oh, but he had an airtight alibi, moving on to Kohberger. I'm like, well, I'm not done with that first story.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say a lot of stuff like the Kohberger thing. You can build, you can logically bridge build in your head if you can think that he's got like the serial killer type of thing like he just described in that book. But what I'd be curious for is how do you think that he had to write that if he was going to get it published and put out? Like I'm not saying that maybe he doesn't actually think that, but like let's think like businessmen here. Are you going to sell more books if you say you think Brian Kohberger's innocent, or you're going to sell more books if it's going to be he's crazy and then I'm going to sprinkle some other wild shit into it?
Well, I mean, I think you're onto something in the sense that he's not likely to get sued by something that everybody in America thinks BK is guilty, right? So he can say, I think BK is guilty all day long, and who's going to sue him? BK is already on trial, whatever. If he were out there claiming somebody else was the killer, he'd get sued 6 ways from Sunday by everybody's family saying, my family member's not the one on trial, so I'm going to sue you for defamation of character. So it's the safe bet. So did he write it for that because he knew he could write a story on a popular murder scene, and the safe bet is to blame Kohberger because we already have been told he's the guy, everybody already believes he's the guy, so it's an easy sell, and I'm going to beat everybody to the book, to the market and come out with my book first. So I think there is a motivation to do it. That was the safe bet.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before. I feel like I have a good intuition and just judging on the eye test of Kohberger. If I was to kind of do like the whole Men in Black thing, like of all the mainstream narrative built around what type of loner incel weirdo he is, if I just saw him, I'd be like, I don't think that dude could kill 4 people with a K-bar by himself.
I agree. By the way, I wanted to share with you because I don't want to miss it. There was another interesting thing that Howard Bloom had in the book. I don't know if you know this or if this is public information or well-known information, right? So because sometimes I miss things that everybody's like, oh my God, you're so behind the scene. We've been talking about this for 2 years. But so Steve Gonzalez has been very vocal about, hey, I'm good with Jack DeCoeur. It wasn't Jack DeCoeur. But in the early stages of the investigation, Steve thought that they ruled out certain people too soon. Howard Bloom has a section of his book where when Jack DeCoeur came over to the Gonzalez family and talked to them, Steve humiliated Jack DeCoeur and said, roll up your fucking sleeves and let me see your arm. And he took pictures of the kid. He looked for scratches. He looked for marks because Steve Gonzalez believed that Jack DeCoeur was probably involved. And he made him go through a pat down interrogation, rolling up his sleeves and showing that he didn't have marks before he finally let it go, and they hugged and embraced and moved on from the situation. But so I don't know if people realize that Steve actually did have Jack the Cooer on his radar, and it came at peace at some point with it.
So according to that book, because I haven't read it, and it sounds like too in the chat, man, you got a lot of people that are interested in that. So Devil's Advocate it's Devil's Advocate 2024 is your handle, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yep. And you're still going through that, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm still doing the book review. I've got a lot of chapters in the bag, and I'm going to do some more chapters this week. So thank you for the shout out. If people want to follow on with the book series, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, and you put out a lot of good stuff too, about the Luigi case and just this case, and that's why I like talking to you, because I like to learn from the people that I have on the stream as well. But I want to go back to something that you talked about with the bar and the feverish conversations, I think is how you said it was written. Did they allude to anything other than, like, what did you tell Adam? I told Adam everything. Did they elude details of that? Because if it's just like I told Adam everything, like, well, what, that there's, you know, some guy getting humiliated, like what did you say?
So they don't allude to in the book what exactly that meant by Maddie when she says, I told him everything. I told Adam everything. They don't explain what that was. But keep in mind, there have been rumors and speculations online that Kaylee was pregnant, or that Jack the Cooer had gotten one of the other people in the house pregnant. Bethany Funk keeps coming up all the time. And they may be rumors, but the point being is that it seems to, from Howard Bloom's, and again, keep in mind, what makes it more believable, in my opinion, is that Bloom believes Kohberger did it. And yet he tells us what someone like me says, oh my God, dude, you just painted a really good narrative for a vicious, if I can't have you, no one can thing. She came there, humiliated him in front of a bunch of people. Maddie tells him something, tells his best friend, because Adam was his best friend, allegedly, everything what? Like you said, now they don't say what everything was, but and Kaylee was concerned because she asked the question, what did you tell Adam? I told him everything. So what was Kaylee concerned? What was Kaylee concerned that she was going to tell Adam? So now again, you have to start playing games, but something happened. This is why I say that I think the key to everything is that corner club night. What happened in that corner club is the key to what happened in this murder. Something, I'm almost guaranteeing you, the fallout on that house happened at the corner club. It's all fallout from that house, but that's my thinking.
And the only footage really of it has been like that kind of odd clip of this like corner security camera. It kind of shows like where the bouncer's sitting, right? Kind of. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if there was anything else that maybe I
don't think so.
Seen.
I mean, they may be hiding it under gag order, because I mean, there's a ton of stuff they're not letting us see, and they probably just have everything sealed. So who knows what's going to come out? But
yeah, and I mean, they did walk away from Jack S at the food truck then too. So I mean, I think a lot of people have said that between the food truck footage, the sidewalk footage, that, you know, something is going on. I mean, I actually, Devil's Advocate, this is relevant just because I started kind of with those posts. Let me see actually if I can pull this up here quick.
I want to add one thing. I don't know that I can make the connection between Showalter and DeCoeur that they were friends or whatever, but my first thought was, if it's true, and I don't, you do a lot of isolated videos. I was going to ask you, or isolated sounds. I was going to ask you, can you confirm whether or not Jack said to the girls, they're going to get you for this? Because if that was the case, here's what I imagine could have happened. If Kaylee is there humiliating Jack DeCoeur, and if Showalter is a friend or in that circle, and he could be saying, they're going to get you for that shit you did, Kaylee. You come there and humiliated Jack in front of all his friends, in front of everyone at this bar. They're going to get you for that. And that would be what I would call a pretty damn smoking gun, that within hours she's dead after going and humiliating him at the bar kind of thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, I believe Outcast has actually even gone as granular as, I think I showed it on one of the streams. If I didn't, Outcast does a lot of great audio. He's going to be on the stream soon. We just got to pick a date, but he matched Maddie's voice in that clip that you're just talking about, where the white truck drives by on the sidewalk, and to her voice on Linda Lane on one of the angles, like pretty dead on. I brought this up. I showed this already. So if you've seen this stream, or not stream, sorry, if you've seen this chat /Hive Mind, I wanted to read this to Devil's Advocate quick, because this is, again, something that scrubbed. Somebody sent me this in the Hive Mind Finds for a screenshot. And like I said, I've gone over this before. It gives background information about, the feud with Ethan and Xana because of David's shrunken balls from steroid use. But it goes on here to say, right here, November 13th, 2022 at 1:30 a.m., Maddie, Kaylee, Jack D, Jackass, and Adam L are all seen together on the CCTV at the Corner Club. At some point, Maddie tells Adam everything, possibly because she heard it from Jack S. Now, then Maddie, Kaylee, and Jack S are walking from the Corner Club to the food truck as seen on CCTV. A white Super Duty David L en route to the Corner Club to pick up Adam L, and Jack D drives by. A conversation between Jack S, Maddie, and Kaylee occurs. Jack S, quote unquote, "You guys are in trouble. They're going to get you girls." Kaylee says, "Maddie, what did you say to Adam?" Maddie says, "Like, I told him everything." So then it goes on to say, where is it? Maddie and Kaylee get a private ride home. Jack S takes off to a family cabin in the middle of the night, allegedly. Mm-hmm. David L, Adam L, and Jack D meet up with David B in his family's white Elantra to switch out the Super Duty for David L's mom's Genesis G70. Now, it goes on to say there's numerous missed calls and texts from Kaylee and Maddie to Jack D. This is where it talks about the crime.
I don't know. I'm gonna lose my mind. Like if that was accurate, if this shit's accurate, that's what happened, in my opinion. It again, I'm reading between the lines, but she humiliates Jack. Now, here's the thing. People have told me before, Jack DeCour wasn't at the grub truck. I'm like, many people have seen him at the grub truck. I think I see him at the, but I'm not a facial recognition guy. I can't tell you that Jake Gyllenhaal or Luigi killed Brian Thompson, for example. But the point being is that people are arguing today whether or not Jack DeCour was there. But this list says Jack DeCour was there, that Showalter was there, that they said they're going to get you girls, probably because she just humiliated Jack DeCour at the bar, and now they're together at this thing. They're like, we're going to get you for that kind of thing. They basically, I don't know where they don't have the fuck off comment that supposedly Maddie says, but. And then you've got a white Elantra involved. You got Jack DeCour and Showalter together. Like if that all that right there is actually verifiable, my number one just became number 100. Like
yes.
In point one. Like I don't know how to make it any more obvious. That seems like the way more obvious choice.
Oh, brother, it lays out. I didn't want to read the whole thing because it's kind of long, but like I said, it goes back to. It says Kaylee dumps Jack and doesn't want him back, possibly pregnant. Jack S knows.
Right.
And then it says that Adam.
Where does he get that from? I don't know where he gets that from.
Dude. And then that's what I'm saying is there's like, okay, I said this too. Before I read this the first time, I said, this could all be bullshit.
Right.
If it is BS, then I want to know two things. I want to know, one, who wrote it? And then two, how did they write this then? How did they make this up? How and why did somebody put this out anonymously then? Is it really just to stir up a case? Well, it seems like there's a lot of real activity that seems to check out with a lot of other rumors. I mean, down to the point where it says Adam L, David S, and Jack D killed Hudson in a hazing incident gone wrong, possibly by waterboarding him. And then they toss his body in Paradise Creek. Jack S knows.
I see. And I don't want to get too graphic, but there were rumors that are supported by Steve Gonzalez saying the wounds on Kaylee were different. The points of injury were different. There were indications that were leaked about the coroner's report that Kaylee had gouging wounds and essentially was eviscerated. And again, I don't want to get too much more graphic than that. So again, if you've got a crime of passion, and if Kaylee was pregnant with someone else's baby, were those wounds gashing, gaping, eviscerated wounds because somebody's literally cutting an abdomen because they want to make sure the baby doesn't survive, right?
I mean, dude, if it's as brutal and bad as you think it is, I mean, clearly, I just feel like there's no holds bar for somebody mentally if they're already going to commit to doing that.
But again, I don't think anybody can prove Kaylee was or wasn't pregnant. It's been rumors, it's been speculation, but again, that's 90% of this case is rumors and speculation,
Yeah. Well, I want to get your thoughts and the Hive's thought on this. If you haven't heard this yet, I'll read this bottom part down here. It says November 13th, 2022, the crime. So it says at 2:30 So from 2:30 a.m. to 3 a.m. on November 13th of 2022, David L., Adam L., Jack D., and David B. meet up at the Deacon parking lot in separate vehicles, an Elantra and a Genesis. They proceed to take the Elantra to 1122 King Road while Adam L. waits at the Genesis at Deacon. Okay. Then from 3 to 4, David L. and Jack D. proceed into the victim's home while David B. waits nearby at the Elantra. Jack D. takes the victims on the 3rd floor while David L. takes the victims on the 2nd floor. They put on baggy clothes, place weapons and bloody clothing in backpacks, return to the Elantra. They meet up with Adam L., and they all go home to maintain their alibis while one person ditches the evidence in Garden City. Again, guys, how do you just put that out there?
Yeah, I mean, and again, that was on my list of theories too. It was multiple assailants on multiple floors at the same time. The defense has actually submitted a witness that said, a guy who's written 20 books on crime scenes, who said, in his professional opinion, this was more than one assailant using more than one weapon. And it's been brushed under the rug. We don't want to talk about it because it probably was more than there was, and it was different types of attack. Because here's my going further with the logic: the person who did the murders against Kaylee had a different feeling about things than the people who did the murders against, or the person who did the murders against Xana and Ethan on the next floor. So the types of wounds were different. The ways that we were killed were different because it's different killers and different motivations behind the killer. So again, I would guess, theorizing, speculating, all those good words, that whoever went into the room upstairs had a thing against Kaylee. It was very personal. The other people may have been killed just to take them out, or collateral damage, or whatever the case may be, and it's different. Their wounds are different. So I think a key to this whole case is looking at how they were killed. This is the reason why I think in the early stages of the investigation, the law enforcement said that they felt it was a targeted attack. They knew one of the victims in the house had indications that that was the person who was targeted. And they later shifted it to say, oh, well, the house was targeted and it wasn't one specific person, because they wanted to quickly shift away the narrative from, they know that this was an attack very specifically against one person. You can tell by the wounds who was the real person with the anger issues and who was the target, in my opinion.
I just also want to clarify, that was a screenshot that got sent to me in the Hive Mind Finds. Again, it's birdiebombshell00@gmail.com if you have anything. But that was something that if you like reverse image search it or whatever, I couldn't find anything on it. I believe it was scrubbed. So this person said, hey, this was back from in the beginning. I had screenshotted this when I first saw it. So just in case anybody's wondering where that came from, it's from way back in the beginning. And it kind of stemmed from how I had said, if we took a poll and you had a type of 1, if you thought that there was truth to these 4chan and Reddit rumors when it initially came out, some of the stuff that was put out too was, if you've seen that, it's pretty viral, but it's an extremely like harsh,
right? There's some
rant
graphic
about these people that were unalived, and like it comes at them from all angles, and comes at their looks and comes at their family. And, it's just like, who would ever post that right after it?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if here's the thing, I mean, if at day one they had told you that Jack DeCour was the suspect in this case, we'd be stacking up so much circumstantial evidence against him. Everybody in America would be convinced he was a killer. But because we said it's Brian Kohberger, we're just doing the opposite there and stacking up so much circumstantial. Because again, you can cherry pick everything. You can look through somebody's internet search history for years and then find something. Oh, if we put this one out there and show this photo with him in a black hoodie and this purchase out of 15 million things he's purchased that looks, and put it all together, it looks really bad. And you can do that with anybody. Pick anybody's your suspect, and I can go, if you give me access to everything, I'll go find stuff that makes him look like the person. I can tell a really good story about it.
Well, and I would guarantee it'd be a very clean narrative too. It'd be a narrative almost mirroring the one about Brian Kohberger. It's too clean to be natural, in my opinion. That the twists and turns are really because you're having to do mental gymnastics to make certain evidence fit.
And this is the part that sucks, is people keep doing this. How dare you come up with alternative suspects because you're hurting those families. And this is all on the presumption that you don't give a shit that somebody's son is on trial for a murder that they may not have done, and you're okay with they're going to execute their son, that person's son. You don't seem to have a problem with be respectful to his parents because they're going to execute his son for something he didn't do. Nobody's saying anything about that because you're already convinced he's the guy. But everybody else, if you come up with an alternative suspect, oh my God, you're a horrible person. How dare you? The families are suffering. Let it go. Well, again, if BK is innocent, you're okay with somebody killing somebody's son because you're convinced he's the bad guy.
It's the it's the power of the mainstream news, man. It really is. It has an absolute chokehold on people who can't critically think. And this isn't even, if we took out even alternate suspects and you just looked at the legal due process of Brian Kohberger during this trial, I mean, the whole DNA thing, I've gone at it at lengths where I'm just like, the feds needed to use that legal loophole to get the DNA off the third-party database because they couldn't get a warrant. Well, why can't you get a warrant? Because you don't have probable cause. Why don't you have probable cause? Because nobody's going to sign off on that amount of evidence. It's very simple.
Right. And if they hadn't, I don't want to get into all the details, but if they hadn't manipulated the PCA, they wouldn't have had a search warrant. If they hadn't lied and said, hey, by the way, we noted a vehicle without a front license plate and Kohberger has no front license plate, that magistrate probably wouldn't have signed off on the PCA for the search warrant. They admitted under court, Payne admitted under oath that they didn't observe that the car had no license plate. They put that into the PCA after they've been identified Brian Kohberger and knew that he had a Elantra without a front license plate. And then they went back and rewrote into it because it was as he called it, a living document. So they revised it on the fly to say that they observed it with no license plate. And he admitted under oath in front of Ann Taylor, we actually didn't observe it without a license plate. We only put that in because it was a living document. We were constantly revising it after we found out Brian Kohberger's name. And then that was submitted to the judge and the judge signed off on the search warrant. Well, and he even said, it wasn't nefarious. We're not doing anything bad. It wasn't on purpose. It was just an oversight because it was a living document. Well, you used that to get a search warrant. You probably wouldn't have got the search warrant if you hadn't lied about that's just one, several things you lied about to get that search warrant. So it's ridiculous.
And I think too, like, the amount of redactions makes people's red flags go, like, kind of their intuition of like, there's some red flags here potentially. I understand that it's a gruesome case. It's a big story, right? It's a huge story. But let's not be naive to the fact that in every city in America, yes, I know this is a small town, there's mass unaliving events all over the place, unfortunately. It's why did this story get picked up? You could go into the, numerous amounts of reasoning for what it might be, but that doesn't change what should be a straightforward stabbing.
And not only that, but I wanted to point out something else. I did a little research today about homicides because one of the things I've had several people bust my nuts about this. Well, I think, Mr. Advocates, that you're silly to think that somebody would kill 4 people because of it. They got dumped by their girlfriend. I'm like, and so I was like, do you realize how many people get murdered? Right. How many people get murdered because of crimes of passion? And how common is the phrase, if I can't have you, nobody will have? That's like so I looked up statistics on homicides. About a third of homicides are people that you know and intimate relationships. The stranger thing is about 20%. The drug angle is about 20%. But more, statistically speaking, if you didn't have any suspects at all, there's a higher probability it was somebody that they knew and it was a crime of passion, somebody close to them, than some random incel who can't get laid, deciding that he hates women and is going to go chop a bunch of people up.
Yeah. I think I said it the last time you were on my stream. I know I said it last night too, but it's like, if you look at the King Roadhouse like a family, if you look at those roommates like a family, it's uncomfortable, but you have to clear the family. You talk about people being cleared so quickly. Well, you go back and you look at the time that allegedly these crimes happened to when a 911 call was placed, if that's even the legitimate 911 call. I won't go into that rabbit hole right now, but so let's just say it is. There's 8 hours. Then the cops get there. Are they separating people? Are they treating it like an ongoing crime? Like, I'd even be curious too. Like, somebody brought up in the about the 911 call. We had somebody send me an email who is an EMT, and they obviously are listening into dispatches all the time for unconscious people, and it's always location of the person who's suffering this, whatever, this unconsciousness, pulse check, life preservation, no matter how gruesome it is. And the other part too that people, when I was reading that, brought up, dude, is did they ever ask, is the person, like, I know they said it was a drunk college kid, right? And that's why they said it. But from a crime scene that you would think you would be able to tell if you had allegedly walked by them, they weren't just drunk and passed out. They were clearly brutally stabbed. Wouldn't you think that somebody would say that? And then if they did say that, it would be, is the person who committed this crime still there? Are they still
right? So I've been involved in traffic accidents where the first thing an officer does is come up to me and separate me from everybody else and say, come over here and talk to me here, because they want to make sure you're not getting your story straight or you're listening to other people. They immediately separate people immediately. And that's on traffic stops. So now you've got a murder situation and you're telling me the officers aren't separating every single one in the house to make sure that their stories match. And apparently they were alleged to continue to be interrogated and talked to as a group. And I don't know where in any investigation that it's not 101 to separate everyone and ask everyone and make sure that the stories all match. But that didn't appear to happen.
It didn't appear to happen. And there's also like speaking of that whole the 911 call and the text messages, something that I've started to ponder in my mind. I don't know if you have, but you know how like I mentioned a handful of minutes ago how Steve G talked about like surveillance at the house, like, oh, he went up in the attic and he evaded the surveillance. Like,
could have, yeah, right,
right. So let's say he's not talking about like actual officers surveilling, and there's just cameras in the house. Humor me on this, Hive and Devil's Advocate. Just humor me. Would those text messages make more sense if Dylan and Bethany were, as people have suspected, at a hotel and they were watching this unfold via a Ring app or a Nest app, where you're not really sure what you saw, you don't know, and it's like maybe they were this, and then maybe that's why they went to bed, because they weren't at home and they just saw it on their camera. That's why they called. They said, oh, someone's in all black, what's going on? Maybe they just saw it on in like an indoor camera. It's one of those things where I'm like, I know that maybe I'm doing mental gymnastics for that part, but if I was to just look at the delayed call and when they called lines up with a hotel checkout time, if you look at their phone activity that next morning, being on Instagram, not being in any hurry, and if you look at how they went back to sleep, that could line up.
It could. And I haven't given it a whole lot of weight. By the way, I don't even know when to work this in. There was a chapter, a couple of paragraphs of Bloom's book that I want to get back to about Olivia Vitale. But anyways, let me state something else. One of my theories is whether the girls were at a hotel or whether they were in the house. One of my theories is that they left the front door open of the house, and they figured because it was a party house that somebody was bound to walk in on the crime scene. I think the girls that were survived, quote unquote survived, didn't want to be the one to have to call it in. They were hoping somebody else would discover the crime scene and call it in, because oftentimes the first person who calls it in is one of the people that's most under scrutiny. Who found the body first? Why were you here? Tell me your story. They didn't want to be the first person to identify it. So what did they do? They avoided, hoping somebody would come in, leaving the door perhaps wide open so somebody would come in and discover it. It didn't happen. And eventually we were told, Dylan's father or something like that says, you need to call 911 because they've delayed too long. And so what did they do? They start texting friends to come over. They don't call 911 because they still want someone to discover the bodies first. The girls don't want to be the ones who discovered the bodies, not because they're afraid to discover them, because it looks more suspicious if they're the ones to discover the bodies. So they're doing everything they can to get somebody to come over to the house and discover the bodies so they don't have to be the one to call in 911. That's one of my theories.
That is that the way you linked it back to the door being open. There's crazier theories.
And we don't know if the door was open or not. I mean, the neighbors, somebody nearby said they saw the door open at 8:30 in the morning and the door was open all day long. So that's one person. rumor, speculation. I don't know if we can verify it, but somebody did say that they noticed that the front door was open to the house since like 8:30 that morning. So did they, and so the question becomes, was it the killer that left out the front door and left the door open on the way back or out? Or did somebody in the house leave the door open, hoping that somebody would stumble upon the crime scene and they wouldn't have to be the one to report it? And they were going to pretend like they were asleep and, oh my gosh, I didn't know what just happened. You mean somebody's dead? They wanted to have the whole show of, I had no idea this happened, by having somebody else discover the crime scene.
But then why in the PCA do they say, or like, maybe not the PCA, but why does it come out then that she walked by the victim? Like, that's where I start to wonder if, like, Ann Taylor had a video, or not Ann Taylor had a video. Ann Taylor was saying something about how Dylan's statement of thought she saw something like she was going in on the word how in the statement it says she thought. She's like, well, that's not fact. Right. And so is that one of those things where LE or whoever you had mentioned, it's a working document? Is that one of those things that got in there and they're like, well, it definitely helps the state's case if they leave certain things in? That could be one of them. But I think you're onto something potentially with the door being left open for that reason. What do you think about Murphy having no blood on him?
So it's hard because the way, again, Howard Bloom is not an authority. I don't know how I can say this enough times. Howard Bloom is not an authority, but way he made it sound like when the police showed up to the scene, the dog was in the room across from Maddie and Kaylee and the door was closed. So the dog was locked up. Now, there are some people who say they saw Murphy running around outside the house that day. I maintain it is impossible in logical mind. Okay, so let me just say another thing. The officers who arrived on scene said they were walking through a sluice of blood on the floor. There was blood everywhere. The officers immediately, it reeked of blood when they entered the house. They were walking through blood when they walked through the scene. So there's no way that dog's running around the house and not tracking blood out. But apparently the dog had no blood on him. So I have to kind of think, if anything's remotely true the way Bloom said it, the dog wasn't running around outside the house, and that has to be a lie, because the dog being locked in a bedroom where it can't get covered in blood is the only explanation that makes sense to me on why that dog doesn't have blood. So the dog had to have been, if the story is correct, in the bedroom with the door closed, because it's the only thing that makes sense. There's no way that dog, in my opinion, is running around in that house not getting blood on them.
All right, let me ask you something. What room was the dog found in?
Supposedly across the hall from Maddie and Kaylee, from what I understand. Upstairs.
And so is that like an extra room?
I'm not sure. I think there was 2 bedrooms and a bathroom on the top floor.
Okay. So yeah, I just saw Phoenix said correct. Dogs locked in an empty room. Okay, let me take you back to my college days real quick. I had 2 cats. I had 2 cats, right? They were farm kitties. It was awesome it was actually really cool having cats in college. I'll say that.
Yeah.
It makes me probably sound so weird. So whatever. I don't care anymore at this point. But you want to know what I would do? You want to know what I would do? I would put the cats when I would go out to the bars with my buddies. I would put the cats and I would put them in my room and I would lock the door.
Well, again, and if Kaylee wasn't staying there, if it was true that Kaylee was staying with her at her family's house for 2 or 3 weeks, but she had a bedroom still upstairs, then why wouldn't she come over to visit, lock Murphy in the bedroom, go out for the night, party with her friends, whatever? I mean, it would make sense in some logical world that Murphy would be locked in her bedroom, her old bedroom.
Right. So like where I'm going with that, and I'll get to this comment that I just put on the screen, because I want to say something about that too. I know cats are different than dogs, but my thought was always, even if I had a couple of roommates home, right? I didn't know, like we had a house that we'd have parties at, right? So I didn't know if somebody would come in, they'd leave the door open, the cats would get out while I wasn't there. So my thought is, if Murphy was still in that room, they could say the door was open. Well, was it kennelled? Was it crated?
Right. That was the other. Yeah. Right.
So if that dog never got let out, did she even have an opportunity to get home, get settled, being back home from being out, or did this shit happen right away, or did it happen outside? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because in my thought is like, if that would have ever happened to me in college, my cats would be locked in my room, not tracking any blood around, because I never got to my room to let them out.
So I want to hit on what you just said, and what, like, Susan Russo, it looks like, has got a pinned comment here. So you say, okay, if the door was open or closed, and if the dog is, so your answer is the crate. It could have been, the answer is the door was open, but the dog was crated, so it can't leave the room. So it's either one of the two, it seems like. If, again, fundamentally, If the dog's running around the house and it's a bloodbath that the cops are walking through a sluice of blood on the floor, then that dog would have blood all over it. If it doesn't have blood all over it, it either was in a room with the door closed or the room's door was open, but the dog was in a crate. That's the only thing that makes sense, right?
My other question is this too. Like, if it was that brutal of a scene, I don't know. I don't know. It seems like Murphy's like more of like a family dog breed, right? Was it a doodle or something?
Yeah. Golden doodle. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if that dog isn't raised around a bunch of chaos, what if it's just terrified and it's just laying in the room terrified to come out if it just heard all of this horrendous stuff? I know the odds of that are slim, but who knows? I mean, if it wasn't in its crate, they said apparently Steve and Christy said the crate was in the back of the car. Okay. But I don't know. I'm just trying to think through all possibilities because the dog not having blood on it really is an oddity.
It is an oddity. And again, that's why we have so many questions about this case. And then the rumor, I don't know if you've heard this or not, or whether it's verifiable. Jack DeCour came over and picked up the dog before he even went to talk to the Gonzalez family about his ex-girlfriend's death. Like, he didn't even address the family. His first thing was to come over and get his dog, which again, you go like, what's up? Because it was Kaylee and Jack's dog. They co-owned the dog, and she was going to take the dog. She apparently had a job lined up in Texas. She was leaving and taking her and his dog, their dog, to Texas. And the first thing he did after her murder is to come over and pick up the dog. Now, granted, I'm not saying that that's proof of guilt at all, but it's just odd that your first thing is to go pick up the dog, not to go like console the family or weep with the family or whatever about the loss of your girlfriend or whatever. You go pick up. I don't know. It's people act weird in times of grief, so I don't want to nitpick that to death. But
yeah, well, look at what I have on screen from Sherry. Then I'm going to start this video here, and I want to go over a couple points in there. Sherry said that's why they tore down the house, Birdie, because they weren't killed. Because they weren't killed, not killed in the house. Okay, so Sherry's maybe thinking that it's WITSEC. This is a psyop. There's definitely a lens to that stuff too. But I want to dive into the aspect where she said maybe that's why they tore down the house, because they weren't killed in the house. Would that be a reason? There's been a lot of speculation that this did happen outside, that they weren't in the house when it happened. Now, there's no blood or anything outside. People say a different location, but we're like, why would they tear down the crime scene and all that stuff? We obviously saw the blood, or what they told us was blood. I think it's been confirmed, dripping out of the foundation of the house. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you. I do have thoughts. And my number one thought is this. They tore down the house because they don't want anybody, because DNA can get in places that you wouldn't believe. What they don't want is anybody going in there looking for an alternative suspect and finding DNA of another suspect somewhere where they didn't look and they didn't find it. So they tore the house down so that it was end of story. It's Koberger, and you can't find any other DNA because it completely destroyed the house. So they want to make sure there's never a reopened, Ann Taylor now has a new suspect on the list. Now let's go back to the house and take a look and see if there's still DNA somewhere in that house that has this person who's the suspect in the house. They'll just tear the thing down, and now we can't look for any other DNA.
Right. And so I've asked this before. Is it 100% confirmed that what was running down the foundation of the house was blood?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious.
I feel like I've asked that, and I think somebody said yes, the DNA. But did we ever get an answer as to who? I know it was coming off of where Ethan and Xana were found. But again, I find it hard to believe if when you hear Xana's name on the 911 call, you also hear someone say Ethan in the background. So I'm like, if there's that much blood that it's leaking through the floorboard, the sideboard, the baseboard, and then out into the foundation, there's no way that you're not going to say, oh my God, they're dead. Yeah. You're not going to say they're drunk and passed out.
Oh, I agree. I see that Ashley's got a pinned comment here. I wanted to comment about that. So I don't remember which one of the girls. One of the girls you see on the grub chuck is clearly hammered. I mean, she staggers. She's hammered. So if both the girls were hammered, maybe just playing devil's advocates, because hell, that's my name, right? Is that she just left a person in the car because she was hammered and she just forgot the person in the car. You're right. Under normal circumstances, would you leave your person in the car? No. But maybe she was shit-faced hammered. I don't know. I can't remember which girl where you could see staggering. I think it might have been Maddie, but
yeah. Well, and we've talked about that too at length. Like, that was one of the things that like Joe Vito said in his interview of like, yeah, they were just absolutely gone. They were, climbing the food truck. It's like, well, we've really dove deep on it. Are they intoxicated? For sure. Is it anything where it's like, again, they got a private ride home. They're not getting behind the wheel. It didn't really seem like they were talking to anybody but themselves. They were filming each other, doing funny videos into the food truck. She wasn't like climbing over it, causing massive disturbances. I really don't think it was anything that would be unusual to see on a Twitch stream on a Friday or Saturday night after bar close, where you stop home to get food truck food drunk. I don't think it was that unusual.
Right. No, yeah, for sure.
You wanted to talk about something with the book again, and we got sidetracked.
Yeah. So yes, thank you. So there's a chapter in which they explain Steve Gonzalez's strange behavior of going on every YouTube channel and every podcast he possibly can. And they explain it basically as Steve decided he wasn't going to just sit back and let law enforcement tell him what happened. He wanted to know what happened himself, and he was going to go find out. He hired private investigators. He went on every show, but one of the first people he went to was a true crime podcaster that Kaylee liked. So Kaylee was obsessed with this true crime podcast. And so Steve Gonzalez reached out to this true crime podcaster first thing. And the interesting part of the story that relates to all of this in a way was that at some point this true crime podcaster had been given some new footage that nobody had seen before, kind of like the Linda Lane footage, and it was early in the investigation, and she got this footage and it showed some shocking thing. And as she started to go out to tell people, oh my gosh, I got the smoking gun, I got this video, whatever, it ended up being a complete hoax that somebody was doing to discredit her, because this is how you discredit people. If you're onto something, you give somebody a really hot lead that they jump all over and then prove that it was bullshit, and then say, now everything that they ever said is suspect. You can't trust anything that guy says. He jumped all over this, which is why I'm super nervous about breakdowns of videos and getting too deep in the woods, because I know that's how it works. People will literally leak stuff to make you bite. It's called giving you enough rope to hang yourself, right? So if they can get you to bite on something that they know has been fabricated, then they can discredit you when you say, oh, this is it, man, look at this. And then they're like, yeah, now you can't believe anything they said, which you were probably on to 99% of it, but now you've been completely discredited because something you said was a mistake. So don't make the mistake.
Well, think of how genius of a tactic that is. It goes back to the JFK situation where the term conspiracy theorist is.
It's a government tactic.
Yeah, if you can't discredit what the person is saying, well, let's discredit the person saying it. And that is where the term conspiracy theorist came from. It was created after JFK was unalived because a lot of Americans started asking a lot of real questions of what the hell just happened to our president and why. And people started connecting the dots. And so they didn't have an answer for it. There's a literal declassified document. I forget the name of it, the number of the document. It came out in the JFK files, I believe, that were just declassed. And it talks about it's either a leaked memo or not an email, but a leaked note where they started talking about like discrediting people that are saying things that are legitimate. You have to go after the person.
Yeah, it's a counterintelligence measure used by the intelligence community when you've got somebody that is revealing information you don't want them to do. You'll even bring them in and give them some juicy piece of information you know that they have to go with, and then discredit it, and then therefore discredit the entire thing and throw the baby out with the bathwater. So that is a common thing. And yeah, I think there's even evidence that the FBI kind of actually coined the term conspiracy theorist so that they could get the public to immediately shut their brain off when they hear the word, oh, well, he's a conspiracy theorist, and then you just stop listening to them. That was actually a tactic of the FBI, was to get people to believe that people are crazy, tinfoil hat people, if you're called a conspiracy theorist. And then all you have to do when you want to discredit someone is just call them a conspiracy theorist, and everybody's done. They shut off the brain, stop listening. And
it still works today.
Right.
I don't get how. I really think it's because either people are too, you want to talk about like a bigger picture, a deeper tactic used by the police state that we're now unfortunately nuts deep in, and it's going to be really hard to get out of this, everybody. But people are so busy just trying to survive, or just trying to put food on their table, or just pay their rent, or just provide for their kids, or they have to work so many hours a week. They don't have time to think about anything going on as to why it might be happening. They just punch in, punch out. You know what I'm saying? And it's that type of world that we live in. And so I have given a shout out to some of the, I guess, older crowd in the Hive, because it would have been extremely difficult to wake up to this nonsense without the internet. And so shout out to anybody that, grew up without the internet, midway through their adult life, because that shit would have been extremely difficult to do without being able to instantaneously share information on the internet. So
yeah,
I would put you in that group in a way of like, I'm sure that the majority of your young life and your formative years, you couldn't communicate instantaneously.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everybody was taught to trust, mainstream media for the source, and people are still a little lazy today, and they'll just be like, "Well, I'll wait until they tell me what happened, and that's what I'll believe." But even in Howard Bloom's book, he indicated that the interview. So that person I told you about, that Steve Gonsalves reached out to, he was talking about things have changed because the interview that she got with Steve Gonsalves was something that Barbara Walters would have done back in the day. That would have been an exclusive interview with Barbara Walters. But at some point, America's starting to change, and YouTubers are starting to be taken a little seriously. So what happens? I'm on a tangent. In comes the government to say YouTubers are just crazy conspiracy theorists. You can't take them serious, trying to destroy the fact that America's losing trust in mainstream media. And now YouTubers are getting the scoop on this story, but they're still trying to tell you that it's a shame, it's a sham, trust the mainstream media, but people have lost trust in mainstream media, I think.
I don't know. See, here's what also with the mainstream news, what I don't understand. If it was a quote unquote free press business, there's no way that you wouldn't make, if it was any other business model and you saw sales numbers going down at the plummeting rates that they probably are, think about not just the news, but like streaming services now between Netflix, Hulu, Roku, whatever it is. You don't make any changes. You're just like, we're going to stay living on this hill with a talking head in a suit.
Yeah.
And we're just going to keep pumping our audience full of obvious bullshit that they know it is. They're going to end up turning our channel off and watch something else. But hey, we don't care. We have huge funding from a bunch of,
Right. I'm afraid to mention this because it's going to be a major digression from this discussion. But one of the things I try to point out is there are people who believe, for example, that there's a lot more going on with UFOs, for example, or those kind of phenomena, but the media will never report on it. And the reason being is what I basically controlling the narrative through the media. What they say is, hey, look, you want to report CNN on White House and get a White House press pass to come in and talk and you see the president live, you better never take seriously certain topics. If you say on TV that you think that there's an unexplained UFO craft in the sky, we'll call you a crazy conspiracy theorist, you're fake news, and you'll have your press pass revoked and you won't get into the White House. So it doesn't even have to be much pressure. And all of the major news agencies, you start to play ball and say, there's certain topics that are a no-go. I won't talk about this and I won't talk about that because they'll label me a conspiracy theorist and then they'll take away my press pass. And that's the easy way to control the media, is you just basically say, if you want to be taken seriously, you won't talk about topics that we say are conspiracy theory. And so therefore, if you want access to the president, then you need to not talk about that topic ever.
Yeah, it's exactly what happens. I would say that if you really had that as your only, like, let's say you're a reporter and that's your only platform is your employer, you can't mess that up. If that's all you have bringing stuff in, you're going to have to play ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, dude, have you watched that Brett Favre documentary that came out where it just came out on Netflix?
No, I haven't seen that. That's good. I saw something with Brett Favre and somebody that was pissed off about him about something in a.
I forget the title of it, but like outside of Brett just needing to leave his phone at home, and put it down, which breaks my heart because I'm a big time Packers fan. But
yeah,
dude, corruption doesn't have to be this crazy orchestrated conspiracy spiderweb. It could be as simple as what you see in the text messages in that Brett Favre doc. And it's where he was, I believe it's called the TANF or the TANF fund, which is the welfare funding for Mississippi. And he knows the chairperson, right? And he's texting her. And he's asking, will people ever find out about this? Will this be leaked? Will they know? And she then responds and says, nobody will ever know. It's never happened before. Okay, well, they have these messages and now it's on Netflix, on the biggest streaming platform in the world. But it just goes to show you a freaking NFL football player, which in my opinion is like a peasant compared to what oligarchs, billionaires, politicians, presidents, very powerful people could probably get done. An ex-NFL quarterback who sent a dick pic really can still get this done.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot easier to control people, by the way, than people think. And so, and that's why we have all these crazy conspiracy theories, because it's not really all that hard to get shenanigans involved in cover-ups and stuff like that, because a lot of people just play ball so they don't have to, anyways. Yeah. I'm digressing, and I'm not making a complete thought because I don't know how to word what I'm trying to say. But yeah.
No, you're good, man. And so did we ever even get to that book point that you were going to make? I feel bad. That's the second or third time now I've asked you. And I feel
the book point I think it was trying to make was the one about people that leaking information that's supposed to be credible, they're using it to discredit you. That's the part that I was making, was this the fear. And the point that I was bringing up is because people will ask me all the time to give my take about an isolated audio or the green Elantra and whatever, and I'm hesitant to do so. And the reason I'm hesitant to do so is exactly what was mentioned in that book, which is that it only takes me to make a mistake once and give myself enough rope to hang myself on to say, I'm convinced that this is what happened. And they go, oh, by the way, that was just a fly on the picture and you misinterpreted it as something wrong because, and so I don't want to be that guy. So I'm trying to be very, very careful about what I will weigh in on and what I don't weigh in on, I guess is what the point was of that whole thing.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So this is an interview. I want to make sure I give credit to whose video this was. So it's actually Chronicles of Olivia that this is from, but that's
the same person, Olivia. That's the same person, Olivia Vitale. Yeah.
So, like I said, I always, if I'm going to show another creator's video, I try to have it where their name is on the screen. So I want to go back to this because we're not going to watch this whole 47-minute video, Devil's Advocate, because we're going to be able to pick. I think without even me telling you, you're going to be able to pick up on why I'm showing this. Okay. So let me know too if you can hear the audio. All right. Got it? You can hear it all right?
Nope.
You can't hear that?
Nope.
Okay, good. Glad that I asked. Is that a cat?
Yes, we picked up another kitten, and he's I will introduce him to your crowd if it's okay. This is we're debating on his name. I'm thinking about calling him Icarus, which is what we've been calling him. But
that's a great documentary.
Yeah. All right.
Have you seen that documentary?
I know the story. I don't know about the documentary.
Oh, it's probably the same thing where it's like the Russian state-sponsored doping agency.
Oh no, I got to check that out. Yeah, that sounds.
Oh my God! If you guys haven't seen Icarus, dude, you want to talk about something crazy? It's this guy who's he's a distance biker. Just real quick, he's a distance biker. He's all natural, and he says, "I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna have somebody follow me around as I do the best of the best steroids and performance-enhancing drugs." Well, it's right at the time of the Sochi Olympics, and randomly, without even trying to, they uncover that all of the Russians. All of them are on the gas, dude.
Right. I remember that.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure they cleaned up and they found out that like pretty much everything but figure skating helped these people's performance.
Yes.
But dude, they're passing the piss like through a fake outlet in the wall, and it's like by the KGB is involved. It's nuts. You would love it.
I'm in. I'm gonna watch it. I'll find it.
Okay. All right. So let me know if you can hear the audio now. Oh, I gotta put it on stage. How about now?
Had an interaction with a date.
Don't let it die.
You need to be vocal. We went and investigated Adam. Adam is about her.
Half of it, they almost became to us like two halves to a whole.
Can you already kind of pick up on why I'm showing this?
Yeah. They said investigated Adam, right? Wow. I think they were suspecting Adam too.
Yeah.
On December 28th, 2 days before the suspect was arrested, my friend Bullhorn Betty and I had the honor of meeting the Gonzalez family.
If you guys know anything, please contact the tip line. It's important. If you live in the area and have anything.
They welcomed us into their home.
I hate having her the day to death on there. So. It was a scavenger hunt. Getting frustrated, don't blow a gasket, head to the link to get your Easter basket. She did a, yeah.
It must have been that year that they dressed up in the bunny costume. It was Jack dressed up in that bunny costume when my kids came over.
And Kaylee.
So I'm going to skip around. The reason why I'm showing this interview, Devil's Advocate, is I just want you to try to like pick up. We've always talked about like some of the interviews by family members just seem odd. I did just get this email too, where somebody found the clip of Christy saying, "Get it right, don't get mad." So I'll play that too, but I just want to show the general kind of gist of this. And I'll just click to a random spot. If you guys want to watch the full thing, obviously here's the creator, here's the title of it. But pay attention to like body language and just, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that was it. School started in August, and it was September that Maddie started coming over, and that was it. You know, that was
spend the night.
All the time. And then it got to where she just would spend the night. Kaylee would spend the night over there. I mean, it didn't matter if it was through my phone. I started screaming. I started killing her. And so I questioned that all the time. Like, why wasn't the door locked? Why wasn't the door locked?
Sorry, I want to just find where they start talking.
I was like, I'm just going to bite my tongue. I'm proud of her.
She did it all on her own. And she called Maddie. It was really funny. She goes, "Mom, I just called Maddie." And she had been like back and forth for days. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. She goes, I asked Maddie, "So which one do you think I bought?" And Maddie said,
car,
"I don't know, Kaylee. Probably a Ferrari at this point." And she goes, so she has no idea. She has no, and she goes, "I'm just going to surprise her." She's like, she's literally got to, you know, and I'm like, she's going to be surprised. It's nice. It is really nice.
But she worked for everything, right? You know, like she had her full-time job. It was technically an internship, but it was paid. I helped her negotiate a better rate on it. And then,
yeah, always been a family.
She got a full-time position with that company as well.
Obviously.
I helped her write her email to her boss. I still have it in my notes on my phone. Where I said, "Hi, Jeremiah." I said, "Hey, Jeremiah, you know, I'd like to talk to you, but it's so proud of her." And like, she always did that. Like, even as a kid, even with Claire, she always worked for it. You know, she never had anything handed to her, you know, anything like that. She always had the support of her family. But
She called me and was like, "Dad, do I sound stupid in this proposal?" And I'm like, "Well, pitch it to me, girl." And she's like, "All right, so I'm gonna say this and this and this," and then we just go back and forth, and I'd be like, "All right, you know, this is how you say this acronym, and this is how you say this." And she literally looked for everyone to help her because she was smart enough to understand that my hustle will work, but I still need the knowledge of all the people around me. And I think that was the part that made me think, like, I never worried about her. I never worried about her.
Never.
I always just like, dude, she's just gonna.
I never worried about Kaylee.
no,
She called us frequently. We called her. When we called, she answered. You know, she kept in touch with us. She made, you know, good choices, you know, positive
and
choices.
she learned from the mistakes of others. You know, like I was the older sister, and like we made a lot of mistakes, and Kaylee was the one to really like sit down and be like, "Okay, you messed up here, Olivia. Like, can you tell me why you did this? Like, walk me through your thought process so I don't make that same mistake." You know, and it just made me really proud of her to like not have her only like learn from her own mistakes and like make her own good decisions, but to be able to like look at those around her and, you know, with love in her heart too, to be like, help me be better, because, you know, she knew that's what we all wanted.
And you guys touched on something, I think we touched on it earlier at lunch. Going back to the night of the 12th, November 12th, and I think you hit, and I didn't even think of that perspective, but they did everything right.
Yeah.
And we discussed that, the buddy system. Explain all the things that they did.
Yeah, they Ubered out together. They only went to known locations that they had been before.
Private driver.
They had a private driver. Yeah, I apologize. It was a private driver that they had actually used before, so they knew him. They had a relationship with this
We knew him
individual.
as a family member, and he really helped us.
Yeah.
He turned us on to food truck stuff.
Yeah,
He's a great person.
good people, and then
That's
only
the
went to
driver?
like known locations.
Yeah. So again, there's some things that I wanted to point out in here that it's just like, thank you. I think, and also your favorite uncle, I'm going to show that clip. I have it pulled up on a different tab, but what Vidrios just says that's what I was thinking. That was my goal in showing, or not my goal, my intent. The reason why I wanted to show this is like it seems scripted. Like she forgot to say that. Like they went to only known places, and he's like, private driver, we know him. It was that, like
I felt the way. So this is so cringy for me, right? Because I have to keep constantly asking myself, what's Steve all about? Is he just a father that's a mess or whatever? So there's that part of me that hates nitpicking, that kind of thing. But yeah, the way that when she said the Ubered there and he's like private driver and we knew the guy, and I'm like, that is so weird that you're making sure to get that part corrected. Like, why was that so important? And again, being, I think like you do, when you see something like that, you're like, wait a minute, why is he making a big deal out about that? That's something. What is going on there? So yeah, right. I'm with you. Again, it's difficult, but I get it.
So, and in the next like 3 or 4 minutes, like I just kind of watched the initial reactions of when they start talking about it. So like I said, here's the full video if you guys want to watch it on your own time. I just wanted to get your thoughts on this devil's advocate.
With known people, traveled only together on well-lit, known streets to get food before taking a private ride from the same individual who would pick them up home to go eat after a night of drinking, being 21, Ubering out, Ubering home with your friend.
They were totally chaperoned.
And then going to bed.
Keeps making a point. They're totally chaperoned.
The way that you tell your kid to go. You know, don't be two girls all by yourself. Have somebody there that can walk with you. Everything was perfect. Everything was good.
Yeah.
All the way up to where they went to bed and went to sleep.
Yeah.
And that I can't control. As a family, we can't control what happens when you.
So one of the things that supposedly Jack Showalter had said was he was watching the girls because he was asked to make sure they got there safe. Did Steve ever say that he asked Jack specifically to follow the girls and make sure they're safe?
Not that I know of, but you want to know who else said that they wish they would have done more to keep him safe? Is Joe Vito. It's a theme of these peripheral players. Whoever seems to be sketchy, whenever they do talk and they go in these interviews, they're all saying, I should have done more to keep him safe. And I've said this, like, if Joe Vito doesn't really know them and just saw them at the corner club and he barely paid attention to them, well, he sure outlined every damn move they made at the food truck,
right? Of
what they did, what they said, who they were with, where they went, what car picked them up, what time it was at, what type of, like, all of this stuff. And it's like, those girls, while they were drunk, I don't believe that they were anywhere even close to drunk enough to needing help. They're clearly communicating with each other. They're aware enough to go stand over on that side of the food truck, get their food. They're on their phones. They clearly are able to get to their private ride. So anyways.
Yeah, I think somebody in the chat said I think somebody in the chat said what I was thinking, which is that Maddie's boyfriend had asked Jack Showalter to watch after the girls. I remember hearing that. I don't know if that's a vetted thing, but I've heard that before too. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
I've heard that too.
When you go to sleep, that's us as society. We have to determine, are we going to let these people be out here that can do whatever they did, sneak into a house, whatever it was? Are we going to allow that to be normal? Are we going to allow that to be okay?
Yeah.
Because we all go to bed at night.
Yeah, what was their flaw? They didn't have a nanny cam in their home? What could they have done to be more safe?
They didn't lock the door perfectly.
Yeah. It's Moscow, Idaho. It's safe.
I wonder about the door because Kaylee was a door locker. She would come here, and so I question that all the time. Like, why wasn't the door locked? Why wasn't the door locked?
But that's not what society's built on. You don't say, oh, well, you didn't lock the door, so you deserve to die in your sleep.
Right. Yeah.
You don't do that. We have to make a society where these people show red flags, we identify them, we address them, and then we remove them from hurting other people.
The phone call the Gonzalez family received on November 13th is one they'll never forget.
We were, it was Sunday around
we were watching football.
1-ish, and we were watching
Remember, this is December 28th. So this is pre-Koberger arrest.
Or a lot of families on Sunday.
And then our son was here. Everybody was home except for she was down at her home.
We gather on
And
something.
my niece called me and she was freaking out. And she said, Christy, have you talked to Kaylee? And I said, yesterday, you know, like last night. And she said, something bad happened to Kaylee. Something bad happened. And she was just bawling. And I said, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? And she said, I think Kaylee's dead. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she
All of our
said,
stomachs just dropped.
she
We were
said,
just like,
there was somebody just called me and they live down there. And she said,
Look at this reaction again. All of our stomachs just dropped, and then head back, eye roll.
I know, and I here's the thing, like
I hate doing this because, again, if this is legit, it's just a way of grieving. Guys, chat, Hive, if you watch my lives, and Devil's Advocate, I guess I won't speak on behalf of you, but I would assume you feel the same way. This is, it's just.
I could tell you this. I can tell you that I couldn't repeat that story without breaking up. I would be choked up trying to tell this story. Yeah, but everybody grieves differently. But the point being is that I'm a giant emotional person, but there's no way I could even tell this story and remembering the last phone call or whatever. I would lose it trying to tell the story. I know I've been through a thing like that, and I couldn't do what he did and roll his eyes like, oh, you know, like it's nonchalant. But again, I don't want to. Everybody grieves differently. I'm so afraid.
Everybody grieves differently. The way that I describe it is, again, there's like just this gut instinct. Like I'm just watching it. I'm like, this doesn't feel anything but rehearsed. Sorry.
Show it again. Go ahead and show it again.
All right.
I think Kaylee's dead. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she
all of
said,
our stomachs just dropped.
She
We were
said
just like,
there was somebody just called me and they live down there. And she said there was a party last night and somebody went in and shot the party up and Kaylee was shot. I was like, what?
What?
And I just threw my phone. I threw my phone.
What? Who told them that they were shot?
Do you guys get what I'm saying?
I never heard that.
That's what I mean, dude. This is crazy. So I believe they said, did they say was it her niece or was it one of her friends that called her?
That's what I want. Now I want to know who.
Let's go back and see if I could quick find that, and I'll skip back forward.
Everybody was home except for she was down at her home
we
in LA.
gather on something.
And my niece called me and she was freaking.
Her niece called her.
I was like, what? And somebody just called me and they live down there. And she said there was a party last night and somebody went in and shot the party up and Kaylee was shot. I was like, what? And I just threw my phone. I threw my phone. I started screaming. I started telling everybody to call Olivia and to get all her roommates on the phone. And I started calling Maddie, and Maddie wouldn't answer, and Maddie wouldn't answer. And I said, no, this can't be, because Maddie would have called me. If Kaylee was shot last night at a party, Maddie or Jack would have called me. Like, no, and I called Kaylee and went straight to voicemail. I was calling Maddie, I was calling Jack, it was ringing. I turned on the TV, and I saw it said 1122 King Road. Like, Kaylee's car was in the driveway, Maddie's car was in the driveway, but it was saying an unconscious person. And we're saying, okay, maybe this isn't, like, maybe something happened. So Steve starts calling the police. Steven, our son, started calling the hospital, and he started calling the PD and saying, my name is Gonzalez, and we heard that my daughter Kaylee Gonzalez was killed in an accident, and they said, oh, we can't give you any information, we'll call you back. Well, next thing you know, some more phones started ringing. Our daughters that came running down, 16 and 17 years old, came and said, Mom, somebody just called me and said that Kaylee's dead. And we're like, what? Like, who was it? She's like, I don't know, it's somebody that said that they're there and Kaylee's dead. And we were like, oh my God, like this can't be, and it's just very, very.
I have so many problems right now.
Yeah, please. That's so ultimately that's really all I had to share in pertaining to this.
I have so many problems, dude. I don't want to interrupt you. I have so many problems.
No, I want you to, please.
So I dismissed another YouTuber a little too quickly, obviously, who was saying, oh, I think people were shot. And I'm like, I see nothing like that. And he was pointing out one of the people who came in to testify in all this pretrial hearing was an expert in ballistics and firearms. And he's like, see, and I'm like, no, maybe he also does knife fight because there's nothing about shooting. And then I'm watching these people talk about everybody's shot, and nowhere do they say, we later found out it was a knife instead of a gun. Like, why aren't they quickly correcting that what they heard was incorrect. Why? And now I have to wonder, is the house turned down because some bullets missed and they went into the wall, but they want to go with the narrative that everybody was knifed to death and there wasn't a gun involved. So did they tear the house down so that we wouldn't see bullet holes? Like, what the hell? Why isn't that family quickly correcting? We found out it was actually all a knife. It wasn't a gun. I never heard that shit. I don't know why. See, this is an example. 2 years go by and I never heard that. But
right. No, dude, I agree. I mean, chat, let me ask you, for the people that are caught up to the live, do you want me to play a couple more minutes of that? Because I do want to show the other clip of where Chrissy, I think before the camera gets started, says some stuff. You guys tell me. Okay, so people are saying yes.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Well, all right. I will play some.
Very
These protocols have to be updated.
Yeah.
These protocols of somebody showing up at your door 10 hours later is ridiculous.
Because we had hours of panic before sheriff
It was
department.
terrible.
It was about 4:30, and I
Now-
So you guys, you know, they never called you. You guys found this out from family members
Yes.
that were in the area, and you guys didn't get notified. You actually reached out to them, and you guys still didn't get
no,
notified
he
for
wound up
hours.
calling them twice.
And I
and
get
then
it.
I
Their
said,
protocols are all about, like, you know, maybe they'll commit suicide or something, but they have to be updated because
The sheriff.
social media moves so fast, so quick. That's
It's
why
not
we are
fair.
using social media. I'm not.
So again, it sounds like what he's saying is that the police's protocol is to not tell the family this because they would commit suicide.
No.
Is that a real police protocol?
No. In fact, they don't tell anybody shit until the family's notified. The family's the first
That's what I was gonna
notified.
say.
Yeah, no.
So
Not using the most common channels.
we called Karen and we asked Karen if she had heard anything, and she goes, yes, I was told that I need to get down here, but there
We
was an
thought Kurt was
accident.
good. We honestly.
We thought maybe Maddie was the unconscious person, and we had already been told by several people, like 100% Kaylee was dead. And we were like, 100, and they're
we were
bawling,
just
and they're
hoping
like
Maddie
this.
was just unconscious.
And then we're like, but Karen got a call saying to come down there. We haven't
I
got a
thought that
call.
was a good sign.
So we're like, oh,
And I kept giving him hope. I kept saying, if it happened last night, you guys would know by now. I kept giving him hope. I said, they just released an article that the roommates are being questioned right now. You know, they probably took their phones, Mom. Like, I just kept giving him hope because I live in Los Angeles. I wasn't here. And that's all I could do. But like, it's just this feeling in your gut that like, I just
knew.
sat with.
I knew as soon as my niece, I knew as soon as Sabrina called, I knew that it was real.
Yeah.
And she was freaking out.
And then cops showed up around 4:30.
Yeah, the sheriff came around 4:30, and then he told us that there were 4 victims, and we said, is one of them Maddie Mogan? And he told us yes. Then we realized that it was Kaylee and Maddie.
We
And
still knew she was going down there.
Why is she acting more
Yeah.
choked up about Maddie
they
than her
both seem
daughter?
to be bringing up, nothing about the other roommates either.
And yeah, okay.
Karen was still on her way, and
Still driving.
and then she got down there, and she got there about 20 minutes after we got the news. And
Another person who was broken by the news of Kaylee's passing is her ex-boyfriend, Jack Decor. Not only has his life been picked apart, he's been scrutinized by social media.
You know in your heart he had nothing to do with this.
More than, I mean, even just logically, I think that a lot of people assume we're blinded by this individual, but contrary to that, we're very capable of removing our emotions for Jack, which is absolute love, and just looking at the situation logically, looking at this individual in front of us, looking at a pattern of behaviors of him that we've seen throughout 5-6 years. So emotionally, and you know, in our hearts, and in our heads, and in every sense of the word, it's
Physics.
not
We did a job
thorough.
vetting him.
I asked him to, yes, like, did he have any scratches? Did he have any bruises?
Mm-hmm.
He came here immediately after it happened.
He can
He's
prove that
broken.
he had none.
No, I checked his shoes.
Yeah.
I checked his car. I checked his hands.
I took
I checked
photos.
his neck.
Yeah.
He came over in shorts
Yeah.
within hours.
And he was happy for Kaylee.
Yeah.
Whether they were, you know, I think they were close to getting back together. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were.
The whole-
Whether she was moving without him or not, he had
Everything was about
nothing
getting
but
together.
love.
We went and investigated Adam. What did you tell Adam? We went through that whole thing. Adam is about her trying to get back with Jack.
Day
Because they're
one.
roommates.
Day one of this all happening, Jack was right there in the trenches with me, reaching out to people Kaylee had called. Who is
Spent
this?
the first 3 nights here on our couch after he came. He could not leave us.
That's why the FBI agent said, Steve, slow down. We realize you guys are ahead of us. We realize that you guys have this chain of thought and you're going where we're going, but we're an organization and we have to check it a little bit slower than you. And you're just ripping through it and you're ready to tell everyone. He's like, slow down.
And I know it sounds weird that we asked him to show us his arms and stuff if we trusted him so much, but I mean, I think that
People,
I
I think people would look at you negatively if that wasn't your reaction.
you know, and I said, and I looked him in his eyes and he was crying and I was crying. I said, I'm so sorry.
We hate
that I have
doing
to
this too,
ask,
but we have
but
to
can
do
you
It broke his
please?
heart.
Yeah.
And he was just like,
No one's
yes,
sticking up for
like,
me.
you know, lift
Pause
up
for a
your
second.
shirt, you know.
I just want to say it's interesting because in Howard Bloom's book, he says Steve submitted him to a thorough investigation and forced him to roll his things up. Christy's saying she's the one that asked him to do it and Steve took pictures. So it's interesting. Now I have to, again, don't trust anything Howard Bloom says. Did he get it wrong? Because this is right from the family's mouth. And Christy's saying she's the one that's making Jack go through the roll up your sleeves kind of thing. But in the book, Steve's the one that kind of humiliated Jack a little bit by forcing him to prove himself to the family.
You know, what's interesting is the way that they're explaining their reasoning for why Jack may not be involved. I just want to put it out there. While there may be truth to they've seen them together for the last 6 to 8 years, whatever the actual time is. I'll bring up the Scott Peterson case. Do you remember how hard his wife's family defended him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how he was able to, and then look at what happened there. So I'm just saying, like, I don't think that that's the only other example of this happening where the family does clear it. And so, yeah, we'll watch another minute of this and then I'm going to move on to that other clip.
And I said, okay.
We're not
I'm so
blindly
sorry.
stupid parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry when your child
Yeah.
meets her demise.
And it did not make me feel good either. But I mean, I was just like,
But when people are like, how do we stick up for him blindly? We're not blind.
No.
Yeah.
We have
and we know that
done
kid's
our
heart.
due diligence. We
We know
have
his
looked at this stuff.
family.
He's been around my babies when my baby.
Now, remember, too, there's nobody that's been arrested at this point, right?
Right.
This is December 28th.
Right.
Babies were born. He would watch them for me so that I could go to the grocery store by myself.
Right.
He had nothing but love for Keely and Patty.
The thing that got me is, I love that woman I've been married 27 years with. I've lost my cool. I've said things I shouldn't say. My daughter broke up with him, and within a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, she had an interaction with a date. She said, call me a bitch. And she was like, I've been with one boy my whole life.
And I said, he's never called you. And she's like, never, Mom. And I said, really? And she goes, never. And he said, you could go make me a quesadilla. And she said, what did you say? And she said, I'm leaving. And she goes, and I left. And I went home and I called Jack.
She's like, I might not ever find another Jack.
And I'm like, you might not. And I said, honestly.
We would always tell her that, yeah.
Because she's like, she knows I'm a fly guy, but we're still married 27 years, had 5 kids, we have a happy life. She's like, your dad's definitely called me some names.
I think it happens in any relationship.
But I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
But it's
he
always
goes
the
from
people that drive you up the wall are the ones you love the most.
Yeah, right? Yeah, no, she said, and I was just like, she's like, never.
Yeah.
Never. And I was
We're
just
supposed to
like,
believe he just takes out 4 on his way to. It just seems like a
Over
huge-
what custody of the dog? Like, there's
No, it's not over
nothing
custody of the
was-
dog, for fuck's sake.
God damn. Yeah, I'm sorry for the language too, chat, but I hope that there's no way that Devil's Advocates and I are the only people that are wondering what Chris 2472 said of what the serious F is going on here. They just talked about the most traumatic thing. Now they're talking about how someone told Kaylee, bitch, go make me a quesadilla. And they're laughing, ha, 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 I'm a fly guy. You know, I've called my wife of 27 years some names, and it happens in every relationship. What?
You know, and here's the thing. Going back to the way, and again, I understand Bloom is not an authority, and a lot of people, and he makes mistakes and he jumps to things. But one of the things that he made it clear was, so there's this narrative going on that Jack and Kaylee were an off again, on again kind of thing. They had broken up several times. They were probably still going to be together. Bloom made it clear. She came to that bar that night to make it clear to Jack it was over for good. She was telling people it is over for good. There's never going to be a future thing. But they're still trying to paint the narrative that, hey, you know, they were probably still going to get together. You know, this is kind of a normal thing. They break up, they get back together again. According to Howard Bloom, who, by the way, still has a motive to say that, you know, to paint Koberger as the guy, is still saying, no, Kaylee came there that night to make a spectacle out of that. Relationship was over for good. And she, according to the family here, was dating other guys. She's seeing other guys, which would drive somebody who thinks that this is the love of my life nuts, watching her go out and date other guys. Now they're trying to say, oh, he was cool with it. Hey, you want to date other guys? That's cool. You know, and they're all, but I don't think that's how it played out. I think this is damage control from the family. He doesn't a little bit not dealing with some things is what I kind of feel myself. But
yeah. All right. I'm going to go to this this video here. Oops. Let me just pull this up. Okay, hang on. Let me just copy and paste it into this one. That cat is hilarious, dude.
Sorry, he's super vocal.
Can you hear this?
Yes.
Gonzalez. Yeah, I'm Olivia Stevenson, ALIVEA STEVEN SON. Gonzalez is my maiden name. I'm married.
My name is Tammy Butts, TAMIBUTTZ.
Good? You guys good? Everybody good?
Which one?
Oh, there you go. Okay.
You gotta get it right.
I think we got it on the pickup. Good. Okay, so just first off, the map that just came out.
I think it was quiet because their mics aren't turned up. The video,
Yeah.
that's not me. My
They're
video is on
prepping
full
for the-
volume.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Out from police. It gives a little bit of a timeline of where they may have been that night. Does that map mesh up with the timeline that you've been putting together?
Yeah, I'd say it's very close. I'd say if you have any closer details to kind of hone in, 145 could be very vague. Maybe it's closer to, 150. Let us know if you have anything concrete, because right now concrete's what we can go off of.
In terms of the details, you said it's close. Does that frustrate you that it's close?
I do, but right now we're still trusting authorities that, it's not going to be 20 minutes here or 15 minutes here that's breaking this. But yeah, I implore everyone, if they know something different, bring it to the police, because if they want to tighten up that timeline, we stand with that.
It seems like there's this very big gap when it comes to Ethan and Xana.
First time that they've ever been asked about them, it seems like.
Unfortunately, I know nothing about them.
We have no idea where they were, but we do have a pretty tight timeline on Kaylee and Maddie, and it is close to what they are posting, but it is a difference, and that difference actually could be huge. I mean, it could be, it could not be, but 145, 159. So there is, and we have corroborated with my phone records.
I think what I was supposed to be looking for was right in the beginning. Cheat code said it was right in the beginning.
Christy Gonsalves, KRISTIGONCALVES.
Little guy is hungry. If I don't feed him, he's going to squeak through this whole thing.
Yeah, I'm just going to mute your mic quick for a second.
SON. Gonzalez is my maiden name. I'm married.
My name is Tammy Butts, TAMIBUTTZ.
Good? You guys good? Everybody good?
Which one?
Oh, there you go. Okay.
You gotta get it right. Don't get mad.
Whoa. Right there. Listen to this, chat.
I think we got it on the pickup. Good. Okay, so just first off, the map that just came out from
Which one?
Right here. We got to get it right. We got to get it right. Don't get mad. That's my first time ever seeing that. Have you seen that before?
So are they respinning a narrative and trying to make sure they get the timing right? Is that what's going on?
You know what it reminds me a lot of, and this is, I guess, maybe a forbidden subject. Seeming how I have Alex Jones in my intro, I will talk about the infamous Sandy Hook interview where who's the dad that is it like, I forget the guy's name, but he starts like working himself up to fake cry before the cameras start.
Yes.
What is that dude's name?
Oh, you're
Robbie
talking
Parker.
Are you talking about the Sandy Hook series?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, where he was laughing laughing before he takes the camera and then he just immediately breaks into tears. Yeah.
It
that
like
was horrendous.
I'm not saying by any means, just to clarify, that is what is happening here, but that it reminds me a lot of like before the cameras get rolling, she's like, we got to get this right. Don't get mad. And what would that be said to your daughter for?
Right.
So here it is again. Right there. You gotta get it right. Don't get mad.
I mean, I don't know if I missed something when I stepped out, but it seems to me, if I were a betting man, that the family has a disagreement on what happened and they got to make sure that they get it right on camera for a universal, unified family story. And don't get mad that it's not going to be the story that you think it is, but we're going to get it right on camera that we're unified on this issue. That's what it feels like. But again, I don't know the context. But
yeah, no, I mean, dude, I don't know what else it could be. Like, seriously, don't get mad. Got to get it right.
Yeah.
I don't think it's about spelling their names right or pronouncing their names right.
Yeah.
So I'll play it one more time. Yeah, I mean, it's clear as day. So we're not gonna go into this, but there's a really good video. I'll click this just so you guys can see.
Why
this.
didn't Jack?
True Crime Design has a really good video on the what Maddie told Adam theory. So if you guys want to check that out, I would highly recommend it. This is a really good video. I'll play a couple minutes of this. Have you ever seen this, Devil's Advocate?
No.
Okay. Do you care if I play a couple minutes?
Yeah.
Jack D, who lives so close, not call the family when the niece had already called. Good point.
I don't know. That's my. I've asked that from like that's like why didn't you call 911? Jack D has been dating this young woman since they were in middle school, and you're telling me his first call isn't too steep?
As close to the family as he was too. That was an issue for me.
Look at that look too.
Middle school, and you're telling me his first call isn't too steep?
As close to the family as he was too. That was an issue for me.
And he knew about it. I mean, early on when he went to get the dog. So unless they had him in a holding cell, he still gets a phone call. You call your mom and you say, call Kaylee's parents. You call the mom, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You have a cell phone in your hand. The minute it happens, who do you call?
Why didn't he?
Right?
Good point. Very good
Why
point.
didn't he call them? My daughter dated a boy through college, and I know, and I know one of my boys, anybody out there ask yourself, wouldn't the first call be to your girlfriend's parents if you know it's just occurred, or if you know she's in any kind of harm? Even if you don't know she's gone, but if you know something went down in that house, I mean, he called and got the dog. The UH side, he said he called, they told me that. So he called about the dog, yet he did not call Kaylee's family? Why?
Yeah, that's kind of whack if you ask me. I'm sorry.
I have a really hard time understanding that. And here's the other thing. The worst thing on the planet is for them to lose both of those kids. Because not only do they lose Maddie and Kaylee, then they lose Jack too, because Jack somehow, I mean, that is just, that is,
this is not the first time this popped in my head, but it almost seems like Maddie is their daughter as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk that that the family had her over for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, and every holiday they took her to other countries to go vacationing. So they acted like she was part of the family for sure. That's the rumor that seems to be pretty universally accepted.
Yeah, and I get it, best friends. It's just,
but yeah, to go back to Steve, and I hate nitpicking shit. I really do, and especially this is why I'm a little bit nervous going live, right, and getting live reactions, because I'm like, shit, I got to make sure that I don't get everybody pissed off at me because I didn't think it through. But Steve looks over at Jack hugging on his wife, and you can see the look of contempt in his face. Like he's not. It's been clear Steve and Christy are not on the same page almost this entire thing. And that look at that look of contempt on his face, like, yeah, screw you, like, don't, hugging on my wife, I haven't ruled you out, buddy. That's what that kind of looks like,
Well, I mean, shit, dude. He looks like, oh fuck,
right? And he's even looking like are you gonna punch me in the face right now or what? Like, I'm out before I punch you. I mean, I'm live reaction, right? This is my live, but yeah, that looks like a look of contempt to me. But who knows?
He like knew he was gonna look at him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
Don't want to go
to anybody out there, ask yourself, wouldn't the first call be if he got for them to lose both of those kids? Because not only do they lose Maddie and Kaylee, then they lose Jack too, because Jack somehow, I mean, that is just, that is, right? So, and maybe he's innocent. Maybe he has an explanation. I don't know, but I don't know. Why did you call the parents?
Yes. Yeah. And this is why on my list, Jack's number one. This is exactly. I mean, I didn't even see some of this footage, and this is why Jack's on my number one.
It's the power of the hive mind. I'm serious. Like, and look at the comment on the screen. I mean, it's like I said today, I had 2 hours to go through all of the emails. I think I said this on the stream yesterday. And please keep the hive mind finds coming. It's birdiebombshell00@gmail.com. Or if you go on birdiebombshell.com, there's a contact tab. But devil's advocate, I got back from up north. I was gone for 2 days without streaming, and I had 239 emails from it. And it's like, it's all really good stuff,
Hey, you know what? When I grow up, I want to be like you, because one of the things that's cool is when you do true crime, eventually when you start building a community, they start giving you really good shit, and they start doing a lot of your research with you, and that's one of the best things. So you're getting that thing where people are sending you tips all the time. I'm starting to get a little bit of it as well. That is the best moment when you build a community and people are like, "Did you find out about this? Did you find out about?" And you're getting people feeding you that shit. It's a good job. That's the way to go.
It is. It really is. And so I'm going to play a couple minutes of this here.
What is everything? Woman, yep. What is everything? I want to know.
Me too.
I told him everything.
Gonzalez's sister.
So you guys can go watch the rest of that. I will say too, dude, an awesome video for the showing the grub truck footage is the it's called Eyes on the Targets. I don't remember who did that video. I know that on the stream I said whose it was.
I think I saw that bit.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, because although yes, it is edited, that it's just to where people are looking at them, you start to realize like, wow, this is a 12, 13, 14-minute video. They're clearly all looking at these girls who aren't talking to any of them. So, I sent Phoenix the StreamYard link, but I just realized we're at 2.5 hours. So I think I'm gonna start to wrap it up here. Devil's Advocate, any closing thoughts, and where can everybody in the Hive find you?
The closing thoughts are, I'm going to be having to watch Olivia's video in detail and break down that family reaction, because there was shit there that I can't believe some of the stuff. And the shooting thing, it blows my mind. Again, I'm reminded that despite the fact that we've been all talking about this for 2.5 years, there's still stuff that you see new. And then somebody will bust your nuts saying, oh my God, you're just finding out about this now. Well, there's a lot in this case. So those are kind of some of my closing thoughts. Thanks for sharing the videos and for sharing the screen and all those things and inviting me on your show. For those who are interested, yes, my channel is Devil's Advocates 2024 on YouTube. I do a lot of long form videos. And like you said, if you're interested to hear my review of Howard Bloom's When the Night Comes Falling, by the way, we're rushing that book real quick because James Patterson now is coming out with a book on the Idaho 4. And so we're going to be covering that one. And there's another book on the Idaho 4. So I tend to break these things down and use them for talking points. But thank you, Bertie, as well. And by the way, I wanted to say one thing, Bertie. I had somebody accuse me of being disrespectful to you, and I want to clear the air. Here's what happened. So many people come to my channel and say, I'm here because of Bertie. Bertie told me I got to check you out. Usually when it's Luigi stuff, right? I think when Luigi comes up, you go check out Devil's Advocate. But a lot of people come over. And I did a video shortly ago where I listed at the end of a video, here's some true crime podcasters I follow on YouTube, and you weren't one of them. And they said, Bertie sent me to you, and yet you didn't list Bertie and the 4 guys you watch. And I'm like, that was no sign of disrespect. Like, Bertie's got a different style than the ones that I was doing. So I was like, oh shit, they're gonna go back to Bertie and be like, Devil's Advocate shits all over you. You send people to him and he doesn't even mention you. Like, that's not the case, brother. I wanted to make sure there's no disrespect meant on that one.
Well, I appreciate you clearing the air. To be honest, I would never have taken offense to that. There's a ton of people that are creators, and I always try to give credit where credit's due. Like, you guys know, I'll share the full video. If I ever have shown a video and not said it, it's an accident, and I'm sorry. But there's a lot of people that do great work. You are one of the creators that I tune into regularly. I did promise people in my TikTok that I posted letting people know I was going to be streaming on YouTube. I did say, if you're into the Idaho 4 case and the Luigi case, tune in. We haven't talked about that. Can you give us like a 2-minute elevator pitch on the latest in that?
Yeah. So yes, I'll be quick. So right now in the Luigi Mangione case, the 2 main things we're waiting for is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania the judge still has not ruled on whether or not the arrest of Luigi Mangione was legal. The defense attorney in Pennsylvania, Thomas Dickey, had said that the arrest was illegal, that Luigi Mangione didn't commit a crime, and there was an illegal search and seizure of his backpack. The judge still has not ruled on it, and there's been no date set publicly for when they're going to rule on it. So everyone's waiting for that. That could come out anytime. The other piece of information that's happening is Karen Nipolo has asked, because both the state of New York and the federal government in New York are trying Luigi Mangione, she's asked for the state to put theirs, either cancel theirs entirely or put it on hold so they can focus only on the federal case. That should be ruled on very shortly. So right now we're in a lull. There's nothing officially on the docket until I think June 26th, but we should hear an answer from either the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania on whether the arrest was illegal in the first place in Altoona, and from New York, where they're going to basically cede to the federal government to let their trial go and basically either cancel or put on hold until the federal trial is over, them going after Luigi Mangione.
That is one of those cases that you opened my mind to completely. You have great theories on that. And dude, I'm looking forward to hearing you finish the book that Bloom wrote, and I'm curious to see your reaction video on that interview that we started. So everybody go subscribe and follow Devil's Advocate. I don't know if I have, actually I could show you guys his channel quick. just so you guys know which one's his.
Oh man, you're so kind. See, now I'm feeling shittier even for not mentioning it.
Good.
in the video.
Good.
Yeah,
You should feel shitty. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Here's his page, everybody. So if you guys want to screenshot that, he's got some really good stuff. So it's Devil's Advocate. There's the logo. And with that being said, man, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. To the Hive, if you hopped off, I'm sorry. You guys are probably going to be mad at me. Phoenix Talks ended up seeing the StreamYard link. So while Devil's Advocate bounces out of here, I'm going to have Phoenix up for 5-10 minutes quick to share her closing thoughts on the stuff that we watched as well. So Devil's Advocate, you are the man, brother. I'm looking forward to next Monday already. Just so everybody knows, every Monday night, 7 p.m. Central, you guys can find Devil's Advocate and I on YouTube. And we will be diving into all things Idaho 4. I'll let him go in on the Luigi case. I don't know enough about it to talk about that. And I think what we should do next time again is like a batshit crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day. I did Birds Aren't Real yesterday. So
yeah. Thank you again so much. And if you ever, if Phoenix ever wants to get up with us, I welcome that as well. So, but thank you very much. I'll ditch out so you guys can close up. And I appreciate everything you do, Birdie. Thank you.
Yep. No problem, man. Have a good one.
You bet.
Yep. Bye-bye. Oh, where did Phoenix go? Phoenix, where did you go? Well, I was going to have Phoenix up quick. Phoenix. There's the thing. I don't see you in the backstage. So you might have to rejoin. So thank you to everybody that's bearing with us real quick. Devil's Advocate is the man, isn't he? Oops.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you, Phoenix, loud and clear.
Freaking fabulous show, Birdie. Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Devil's Advocate is so awesome. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really cool. I don't think I've ever told the story. He had sent me an email a couple months ago, and he was really high on the funding stuff that I had found with the WSU and the NIJ, and just the way that he emailed me and he approached me, he did it in such a way where it was just like, I would love to come out and like dive into that more. And so that's how that all started. So to see kind of this worked out and him and I click so well, just like how you and I randomly, started talking on lives. It's been great. So I wanted to just say thank you again to Devil's Advocate and Phoenix. I'm glad that you were tuned into the chat. I don't know if you caught the whole stream. Like I said, we were already going on 2.5 hours. I wanted to bring you up because obviously you are a leader of the Hive and people are probably wanting to really hear your thoughts on some of the stuff that was said. So what do you got?
I cannot believe that video you just showed. I am floored. I feel like I'm watching a movie. It's like, what in the world were they thinking when they filmed that and released it?
I wanted to show it. It's never to try and make anything look stupid. None of the family members. It's not what I'm trying to do, genuinely. But it's like, we have to be realistic that this, while we all grieve differently, if you take that one talking point out, what does it all look like then outside of that, right?
Yeah, I'm just floored. I mean, look, okay, if it was me and I just saw that and I didn't know anything about the Idaho 4 and I didn't know that they lost their daughter, I would be thinking they're making a documentary about their daughter and her achievements.
What did you think about the whole, they were heard that there was a party and they got shot?
I was shocked. I've not heard that other than on the 911 call when someone that sounded like they whispered they've been shot.
Yeah. Phoenix, hey, too, I don't know if you're connected to Wi-Fi or the data. You're a little choppy. Just if there's a setting on your phone, it might help a little bit. I can hear you. It's not delayed, but I don't know if maybe you have better connection if you disconnect or connect to the Wi-Fi.
Let me see if I can do that. Hold on. Is that better?
No.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
And if also, I was going to say, if it doesn't get better, what we could do, Phoenix, is tomorrow night, we can break that down as well, and I can have clips put up if there's.
How about that? Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little better. Yep.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm just floored. I'm shocked. But you know what? We heard that in the 911 call that perhaps someone had been shot. And I mean, were they shot or were they? I'm just like baffled.
Were they shot and then mutilated to hide the gunshot wounds?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know about this case. You know, just it's so far out there. So many different things. The PCA, we all know how we feel about that. Obviously, the PCA indicates that there were two weapons, two different type of weapons, and the expert coming to testify is obviously skilled in firearms and tools, which include tomahawks, chopping block things. You know what I'm talking about? Those type of things.
Yeah.
And I'm dumbfounded. I'm just shocked because, you know, I uncovered a rumor, and I don't know how true it is, but allegedly whoever did this to Kaylee took something of hers. It may be allegedly some body part or something to that effect, which blew my mind. I don't know if you've heard anything like that, but I mean,
seen some stuff. And Phoenix, I hate to do this to you. The audio is not better. So,
okay.
Of course, right there, that was the most crystal clear part that it said that it came through crystal clear. But how about this? How about we dive into that tomorrow, you and me, our normal time, 7 p.m. Central for everybody in the Hive. Thank you for popping up, Phoenix. I'm sorry that the glitchiness. I want to get your thoughts on that. Somebody just had sent me an email that there was allegedly a firearm found at the scene. So I have not seen that email. Like I said, I tried to comb through all of them today. What would really help too, if you do send me an email, in the subject line, I get a lot of emails that just say Hive Mind Finds, which is great. But if you could put in the subject line what it is that you sent me, that would really help. So Phoenix, thank you for tuning in. I'm looking forward to tomorrow already. I'm going to have that interview pulled up. I'm going to watch it tonight.
Oh, good.
I'm going to make Mrs. Birdie watch it with me. We're going to dive into it. And I'll try to find some clips. And I think it's about time Mrs. Birdie gets back on a stream. Don't you, Phoenix?
Yeah, we haven't seen her. We need to see her more.
I agree. Outside of just bringing me snacks, right? So
hey, that's an important part of all this.
That is. So Phoenix, thank you for popping up here quick. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Everybody in the Hive, we have the best chat, I believe, on all of YouTube and TikTok with the Hive Mind. As a reminder, tinfoil hats are now available on birdiebombshell.com, along with a tumbler and the coffee mug, along with some hoodies. I am working on the bumper magnets and the bumper stickers, I did get a PO box. Okay. So I had people wanting to mail jerseys or other things. So I will have the PO box address listed on the website tomorrow. Okay. So thank you for everybody who said, like, somebody made me Incredible Hulk jersey for when I crash out over my audio not working, which tonight it didn't happen. So maybe the jersey wouldn't have been applicable tonight, but I should probably keep that nearby. So anyways, you guys rock. I hope you guys enjoyed Devil's Advocate. I always enjoy talking with him. Phoenix, I wish the audio would have been a little bit better, but we will go deep tomorrow night on that stuff. And to everybody that tuned in, good night. Cheers. And I hope you all sleep good. Thanks, Phoenix.
Have a good night. You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.